Black magic. You got to know, got to show, it's time to roll. So just tell me what you want to hear. Tell me what you want, so just tell me what you want to hear.
Welcome back to another edition of RatG TV. It's your boy Zeus and Science himself, M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, the villain wingman. Steve Lambert, how's it going, brother?
Good, man. Good. I'm getting some weird signals here. I don't think my hat is quite up to spec here because
I think it's messing.
Shit coming in here, man.
I feel like it's messing with our reception right here. I feel like I'm a little our reception's off a bit, but you know what? That tinfoil hat, though, very fitting. Welcome back, light 'em if you've got 'em. RatG TV, folks. We are here talking tonight about conspiracy theories, the good ones, the bad ones, and everything in between. What makes a conspiracy theory? We'll talk about your favorite conspiracy theories and ours. Ones you believe in, ones you think are just pure bullshit. Let us know. We'll have a great time doing that. Also, Steve, you've got your 5-second movie review this week. What'd you look this week?
Well, I went to see old M. Night Shyamalan's Old last night and Snake Eyes, so I had to choose between the two. And I think my review for Old came up a little stronger. So,
well, hey man, I'm ready for that. We'll see if M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong has got back into the right way of things. And I just poke fun at M. Night Shyamalan. I do like a lot of his movies.
Me too.
But I am that guy though. I either like his movie or I just like I can't even get through it. Honestly,
I'm the exact same way. Honestly,
yeah. It just totally depends. We've got TikToker of the week this week. We also have a special guest coming later on today, and you guys will find out later. So stick around. That'll be happening around quarter to 7 Eastern time here. Will says, "Hey guys, how's it going? Luke Tough, how's it going? Let the carnage begin." Yes, conspiracy theories. Let it begin. Ron says, "Helmet head, you look like you're riding the short bus, Steve."
I do have my New York City Mental Institution T-shirt on. So,
Will says, "Why are you wearing a hat from the movie Signs?" LOL. Well, that's exactly why, and we are going to get into all of that as well today.
Quick funny story. I was wearing this T-shirt at a Cypress Hill concert, and this guy, he taps me on the shoulder, and I'm like, I turn around, and he looks at me, and he gives me one of these. He's like, "Hey, man, like, how are the beds?" And I'm thinking to myself, what? Like, what is he talking about, dude? I'm like, good, man. I turn around, and I'm like, oh, the T-shirt, the beds. I get it.
So wrong. Yeah. Well, hey, man, that shit's gonna happen at a concert a lot of times. Steve, you're too close to DocNet. That's what's throwing off the signal. Yeah, definitely. Luke says, "To be fair, Steve, bald suits you." And Alex Langre, yeet yeet. What's up, Alex? How you doing, brother? So, folks, let us know in the comments there. As you comment along, we can post them up there. Let us know your favorite conspiracy theories because, Lord, we know there are a lot of them.
These hats really hold in the heat.
That's not the only thing they're holding in. Pretty sure they're holding in any oxygen or they're holding in all air there, and no extra oxygen is getting in. Truth is, I am Ryan, man. No, Ryan. I'm Ryan, man. The man named Zeus. All right. Well, should we just get right into it?
Yeah,
we usually start off every show. We go with the topics. Do you want to start yours first, or do you want me to read off a few here that we got on the page?
Let's read some from the fans here.
All right. So Lori Bose, happy birthday to Lori. Says, "I don't know. I think some conspiracy theories are put out there by the powers that be to distract us from seeing who's really in charge. Also, capitalism works best when there's a system to figure out who the most gullible people are. As the saying goes, a fool and their money are soon parted. I mean, I don't know if that's a conspiracy theory or just facts. I mean, I think a lot of us look at politics, that's the way they go. Like, a lot of politicians prey on what they find more gullible, right? More gullible people. Wayne Cleary says flat earthers have to be my favorite. Me too, buddy. Some of my favorites as well. Drew Smith says favorite he believes in is the JFK assassination being a setup. And QAnon for sure is the best one that's hysterical, hands down. Yes, the mighty Q. And we're not talking Q107.
Right.
Chris Levenwa, Antifa, Black Lives Matter as terrorists. Jewish space lasers, 5G vaccines, now with GPS tracking. Rudy's hands were fixing his shirt. Rigged elections, both won and never lost. Diet Coke and fat-free yogurt. These are all conspiracy theories that he thinks are really bogus. Come on. Rudy Giuliani was definitely just trying to adjust his shirt.
Right.
That's all he was doing. Steve's fine. It's Ryan that's laggy. Yeah, I know. I don't know what's up with that today. You know what it is? I shared my internet with my neighbor. And that could be a problem. But, you know, I'm just helping out. You just moved in. How about you explain what the hell happened at the news station, Ryan? I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. Is Jordan on tonight? We need a young person's conspiracy theory. He's not on tonight, but I think you'll like our guest, and I think he'll have some fun conspiracies for us as well tonight. Clark Smith Bitter, our summertime Santa Claus, says they are the single most dangerous aspect of our time, conspiracy theories. AJ Harrison, my fave is the 1% being some lizard elite species from the hollow earth. Honestly, though, the only hard to believe bit for me is the hollow earth part. I could see the rich elite being some bipedal skin changing lizard people, though. He follows with a laugh. Kelly Lynn says vaccine shedding, causing all kinds of problems, including infertility and women losing their babies. Now, see, that one's a rough one because how would you know that that's what it's caused from when it's so soon, right? Like, I don't know. Bart says, I love the ones about the moon, but not the landing was fake, but there were aliens there when astronauts landed, secret alien bases there now, or that we've been visiting there clandestinely. I will also admit and accept the appropriate ridicule that I enjoy the ancient alien stuff. As an art historian, I know better, but it's guilty pleasure. It's aliens, man. And Rain says, I'm scared to say this, but the conspiracy theories about the fact that the vaccine needs 2 shots being a reason to inject more poison. She says, I've had the Hep B vaccine and the tuberculosis vaccine when I volunteered at the hospital. Both required a booster. I'm pretty sure Hep B was 3 shots in the course of grade 8. Not to mention that tetanus shot is a 10-year booster. But other than that, flat earthers are definitely hilarious. And then the last one, Lisa Brewer saying, COVID possibly being engineered as a bioweapon. Which you hear quite a bit. You know.
We apologize a lot on this show for, you know, when we make fun of people, because we do make fun a lot. We make fun of ourselves. That's just what we do. But flat earthers, we don't apologize. No.
Flat earthers are the only people in the world that we will never have. Well, them and Nazis. We'll never say sorry to either of them. And not for the same reasons. We don't think that flat earthers are as evil as Nazis. There just happens to be a lot of them that actually support them as well. Let's throw this one in early. For all who think COVID was created in a lab, you're wrong. It's from eating bats that humans with flu had sex with. Luke stirring the pot already. So this one I don't know about. I read this earlier. Andreachrome is a drug the lizard people use to stay human. So I read that adrenochrome on a conspiracy list, but I didn't have a chance to look into it because I'd never heard of it. My mom works in the COVID labs at the hospital. She claims it was a pollution control virus that got out of hand also. So Remember Mrs. Farnsworth?
I do.
Our grade 4 teacher.
Yeah.
I remember her telling us, like, I remember a lot from her. And not just the fact that she failed me. And that was honestly, she's still one of my favorite teachers of all time. But I remember her saying back then that a lot of the world powers, like the Queen and the president at the time, and I think it was Gorbachev, all of them wanting to have some kind of population control because the population was getting too big. Now, I don't know how true any of that is. I'm just saying I remember that way back in grade 4.
And I did read an article recently that they said in the next 10 to 20 years, I believe that we are going to have the very first population decrease in a very long time.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's attributed to a lot more younger kids aren't having kids as much earlier.
Exactly.
There are a lot of factors there.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the same thing. I know my kids. Say again?
The baby boomers dying off.
Yeah. I mean, we'll miss you. I'm kidding. A lot of great baby boomers somewhere, I'm sure. Well, let's go on then. Before we'll read the ones from Ryan's All Things Geek page after we get through your top 5 list of your favorite COVIDs. Now, can I show something before you get going here? I want to show a pie chart that I found online. Now, this pie chart was put up there by Abby Richards, as you can see, and she goes from grounded into reality to you're basically screwed. And the first tip is, things that actually happened. NSA mass surveillance, Operation Mockingbird, Tuskegee, the FBI spied on John Lennon, MK Ultra, all this stuff that turned out to be true later. Then we get to the next level. And we've got, some stuff that's speculation line, Free Britney, which we all are starting to find out is true. Marilyn Monroe, did the CIA kill her? Was it the mafia? JFK, Roswell, Epstein, Princess Di. Those are all the ones that, they're plausible, right? Like there's good reason to ask questions on those. Then you're leaving reality and you've got Avril Lavigne replaced, Elvis is alive, crop circles, aliens built Stonehenge, Greta Thunberg is a time traveler. You get your Bigfoot, your Loch Ness monsters, things like that. Then you get your science denial. Jet fuel doesn't melt steel beaming. Global warming is a hoax. Finland doesn't exist. Have you heard that one?
I have not.
That is one. Chemtrails, things like that. Then you get into some of the absurd. And this one goes, So you've got the global warming, like we said, the 5G, but right above all that, where you're detached from reality, QAnon, deep state, George Soros, white genocide, flat earth, reptilian overlords, Pizzagate, and the hollow earth and Nazis on the moon, as well as the moon landing being faked. I don't understand how both of those can be up there, but hey,
I really have to thank you for that chart because I'm glad that none of mine are in that last tier.
That's awesome. Everyone keeps saying it looks like a pizza chart. All right, Steve, let's go, buddy.
Pizza pie, huh?
Pizza pie. Let's get to the pizza pie, and pineapple belongs on it. And it's not Hawaiian; it's Canadian.
Now, the ones I put on my list here, I have a few that I have some questions into, and I put a few on here that are just something that I think have been fun ones to watch about documentaries and shows about over the years. So we're going to start with the one that this one's been talked about for so long. There's been award-winning movies made on it, and we're talking about the CIA conspiracy to kill Kennedy. The people's president at the time, really.
Yeah, and how much of that? Now, I've heard different stories when it comes to this, whether it be the CIA killed him or whether it was the mafia had killed him, or whether it had been, the Rat Pack even, because they, Frank Sinatra felt slighted after Bobby Kennedy told JFK, basically, you can't hang out with these guys anymore.
Right.
And, you know, so I don't know. There's a lot of theories there. That magic bullet theory.
I think that the Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy. Did he take the shot? I believe he may have taken the shot, but I do believe there probably was an insurance shooter.
Right.
It was a conspiracy, if that's the case. But yeah, JFK, great movies. Like I said, countless hours of documentaries based on this one. So
yeah, and one we may never ever know the truth to, at least in our lifetime.
yeah.
Luke says, I heard Bigfoot is the next step in our evolution. We're going to get bigger and hairier and try to avoid cameras because of the world getting too media oriented. Or maybe I'm just making them all up. I think that's more likely.
I like it, though. I like it. Keep them coming. And I got to tell you, I'm loving this show already because this is giving me so much Google search stuff related, like the lizard people. Lizard people.
What? You've never heard of the lizard people?
I've never heard of this one.
Have you ever seen the movie V?
I have.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where they got it from because the lizard people thing has been going around for a long time. Like the people living in the sewers in New York and stuff, I think they're all kind of connected.
The Chuds. Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
Right, but they're reptile people.
Right.
Or the Morlocks.
All right, so the next one, I threw this one in for fun just because I think at the time, and given the state's reputation for wanting to always be the best and the first and stuff like that, being in the space race with the Russians, it was a big huge deal. The Russians beat them to space, so the Americans had to beat them to the moon, and I think that's why this conspiracy was formed, the moon landing being fake. And of course, anybody who's watched Big Bang Theory knows that they did put actual reflectors on the moon, and that is a real experiment that took place. A lot of real science involved in Big Bang Theory. We know that they actually had consultants on that show to try and get everything right. So,
yeah, exactly. It's one of those ones that's always kind of made me laugh. First, the people that say it's CGI. There's no CGI back then. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry. And then others that are like, oh, Space Odyssey 2001 came out the same year. Here's my whole thing. When we watch movies when we were younger with special effects, and that looked real to us then, when we watch them now, we could totally tell.
Oh, yeah.
That hasn't happened with the moon landing footage.
No.
It always still remains looking the same. There'd never been a point where we've evolved our viewage of it to acclimate to show what's fake and what's real.
Right.
Now, if you want to say it was on a set somewhere and they did that really well, then maybe, I don't know. I still think they landed on the moon. Whether that video footage was something they filmed afterwards or at the time, I don't know. But I completely believe they landed on the moon. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, folks.
This next one, this one that is one I've had a lot of fun with over the years, just because there's so many different theories, and that's the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. Multiple movies again made on this subject, documentaries, and I think we did finally get the truth because if you've ever seen the Iceman, he did work for the mob and stuff like that. He was portrayed by, I can't think of the actor's name now. The latest movie.
By Al Pacino. Didn't Al Pacino play him in The Irishman?
Oh, maybe in The Irishman. Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking before that though, from Boardwalk Empire. Anyways, he did a series of confession videos, basically in prison, talking about all the stuff he did because he had he was just he really was the Iceman. He was cold, man, that guy.
Yeah, I've seen the videos with him.
Yeah. So he basically said that he was more than likely crushed up into a car, into a cube, stuck on a ship, and sent off to China. Yeah.
He's not under third base at Old Yankee Stadium.
He was under first base at Yankee Stadium to crazy stuff.
And they checked when they tore down the old Yankee Stadium. They checked, and they didn't find him.
They check.
It was almost as bad as Geraldo looking for Al Capone's vault.
Right.
Like legit. We're old, by the way. And number 2 on your list.
Number 2 on my list, this one being the most current one, not one I believe in, obviously, make that clear right now because it is such a hot topic right now. And that's that COVID-19 is this biological experiment. I mean, in the times we live in, and that's just it. Our government has been corrupt in the past, and it just, with genocide, and there's just so many horrible things that have happened on this planet. People see stuff like this, and they're just like, don't put it past them, right?
Well, exactly. To me, a lot of it is how difficult it would be for them to do this on a mass scale without taking out more of the population than they had planned to, if it is population control.
Yeah, because this is the classic. If this was man-made and that was the plan, this is the classic freaking, plan for the better good gone wrong.
Yeah, exactly. What's up, guys? What's up, Chad? How you doing, buddy? Our one of our favorite Spawn cosplayers out there, Cowboy Spawn himself, Chad.
How you liking the draft, Chad? Big Red Wings fan. We traded up for a couple picks yesterday and today, so we did pretty well in the first 3 rounds.
Why is it the only time the Sabres get a first-round draft pick? It's not like a It's not like a fucking Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews level. And I no disrespect at all, but every time we get a first-round draft, like first overall draft pick, yeah, the defenseman,
right?
Great defenseman. But I want a Hall of Famer, man. Like I want a first ballot Hall of Famer, like right out of the draft. But we didn't even draft LaFontaine. We got him out of a trade for Turgeon. So we got him in his prime. Yeah, but damn.
Yeah, you guys need a franchise player for sure.
Yeah, it's not Eichel. Eichel is we're the opposite of what Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers are right now with Eichel. Where Green Bay wants Aaron Rodgers to stick around, the Sabres don't want Eichel there, and Eichel doesn't want to be there, which is making it really hard to trade him because our GM's asking the world for him.
So this one that Luke's mentioning now, this is one I talked about last when we talked about doing this show, and it's one I just recently heard about. It's the Denver airport, and there's some crazy things going on down there, man. There's podcasts on this, documentaries. I have no idea. I have delved into this one so deep in the last week or so. It's crazy.
Yeah. Chad says doing good, and Stevie Y is going to make Detroit great again in a few years.
Trust the eyes are planned.
There you go. All right. Now, number 1 on your conspiracy theory list.
Yeah, this is one that I have a leg in, I think. I wouldn't put it past the government, any government. I mean, maybe not any government, but the 9/11 was an inside job to some extent. It just, I don't know. I've seen a lot of documentaries on this subject, and to me, there's some stuff that doesn't add up.
Yeah, I'll admit there's some stuff that doesn't add up. Same thing I'll say with every conspiracy theory is always, what's the gain? What was the gain then? Like, what if it was an inside government job? What was the purpose then?
Right.
It wasn't to start a war with the Taliban because they went after, or with whoever it was, Saddam Hussein or whatever, because they warred with someone else. Like, I mean,
but that war did shift it into another war.
Right. But even that, like, I mean, so what was the gain of that war?
Yeah, it's a horrific event in our lifetime. I was at home the day it happened. It was just terrible. I mean, I really hope it wasn't, because it just,
yeah,
for that to come out would just, I don't even know.
So many lives lost. Like, it's just ridiculous, honestly.
It's just a terrible event.
Yeah. Chad says he hasn't smoked cigarettes or the MJ in 2 weeks now. Chad, I just want to say that we don't accept quitters here.
Yeah. We have quitters.
I'm just kidding. We're completely proud of you, especially on the cigarette front.
Yeah, man.
Also, why does Coca-Cola have a dash in the design, but not in Canada and the U.S.? Conspiracy, or I'm just localizing the advertising? Yes.
It's conspiracy, man.
Oh man. Gord Hogue says the purpose was all spending for government funding of projects and monitoring. It's all been a thing. More like I need more than a generalized statement like that though, and I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just that sounds like a talking point with no substance to it. It just sounds like you. And I'm not blaming like saying you because I've heard that before as well, but I've never heard anyone give context to that. It's just like it seems like salesman talk to me, where people say, "Oh, well, you know what." You're like, well, how much gas does it take to fill this thing up? Oh, well, let me just tell you, this thing is so fast. No, I get that, but how much gas is it? Oh my God, the stereo in this thing. Okay, but that's what I feel with kind of that comment without any context. Had a little scary moment a few weeks ago and ended up in the hospital for 3 days and come out and find I had angina. Oh shit. Well, dude, glad to hear you're doing better. I hope you're on the mend. They upped phone and computer tapping in North in the name of Homeland Defense. They track everyone. But here's the thing, though. It's the government. They don't need to bomb anything or kill their own people to up that. They're the government. They can do whatever the fuck they want. If they want to say, hey, we're going to tap all your phones, and guess what? They were doing it already. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe, I guess. It's possible. It just seems to me like something they would do anyways without... That's like them asking for permission to tell us how old we have to be to vote. They're going to do that anyways. They're the government. Why, when people said they are going to invade Area 51, did no one get shot? It's because they moved to Area 52. I said that all the time, Luke. I said if Area 51 was a real thing, one, that means there's at least 50 other places, and two, the second that it leaked to the media about Roswell, New Mexico, and Area 51 way back in the 60s, I move house to another place.
Unless it is the first of many facilities, or maybe the only one, and it's just like one of those Leonard Part 8 situations.
I knew you're going Leonard Part 6. I love it. They don't need a vaccine to track people. We're all tracked and traced. Exactly. And just think of... So I got my first shot, and they take a needle, they put it in the vial, and they pull it out, and then jab it in your arm. So you're going to tell me that the government spent millions and millions of dollars for wasted microchips that won't even go into my arm at all? Because they throw those out. They don't, I'm going to just use the rest of that on the next person. I mean, or maybe they do, but I don't know, seem like a brand new one every time he jabbed the needle in there. And just how much money that would cost. I never understood that one. Like, how much money do you think the government really has? If they're always begging to raise taxes on everything else, I mean, there's some stuff is just, come on. And I'm not calling anybody stupid. That's just,
yeah.
I think the idea is stupid, not anyone stupid for believing into it. Because there could be any number of things that lead us to believe anything.
We're human, man. We base our decisions off emotions, off a lot of things, man. It's...
Yeah, maybe Area 51 is S1 as in Site 1, just a misconception by the conspiracy theorists. Yeah, could be. All right. Well, let us, we're getting late here. Let's get into my top 5 here. Sorry I'm late to the conversation. What are your views on flat Earth? Well, stick around. You're going to find out. There's Steve's. So, number 5, starting from 5 and going down to 1 on my list. Number 5 on my list that I find most absurd or the silliest of all the conspiracies, and that is that of the flat Earth. So this is one way a lot of people kind of think that it is. They don't think that it's actually flat. They believe it's, in some kind of dome, under a firmament, and the sun and the moon only revolve around there. Yes, and they're on the back of elephants that are on the back of a space turtle.
I worship you, oh great space turtle.
I'm not saying all flat earthers are born again Christians. I'm not saying all born again Christians are flat earthers. I'm saying every flat earther I've personally met has been a born again Christian. I am not saying anything about anyone who is of that faith. I am speaking of the small section of flat earthers that I have met. Every single one of them has been a born again Christian, and every Christian that I know pretty much hates them without hating them because they're Christian. There's so much with this conspiracy that's so stupid. Okay, one. Let's attack the fisheye lens theory, okay? So you're going to look out into the sky, and you're going to tell me with your own eye when you're looking at the moon, or when you can see Venus with your naked eye, or through a telescope you can buy at Canadian Tire, the cheapest level, and you see that every other planet in the solar system that you could see through that is round or globular. You think that we're on the one flattish one?
And not only that, but based on that theory, we're observing these other planets and seeing them.
Right. What are we at the drive-in? I know. It's like we're watching it on a flat screen or something. Now,
we have overhead. We just happen to have the only overhead view of every other planet in the solar system.
Let's tackle everyone saying, okay, for this to happen, all the world's governments would have to be in on this. There's not one government on the planet that can get along with its own government. You're going to tell me that every government around the world is in on this. Plus, they would have had to have millions of patrol people surrounding this little ice shelf that you guys think is out there. And I'm sorry, like I said, the only people we will not apologize to are flat earthers. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. I just say I'm sorry out of force habit. We don't care. Like, it just is not a thing. So you're going to say we got, say, millions of these patrol people surrounding this ice shelf. Out of the history of time, so you're going to times that over centuries, and we're talking like hundreds of millions of people. Not once has it ever been leaked to the rest of the world.
Yeah, man.
And then this. How? I mean, how? How do you believe that, but you don't believe that the Earth looks the same shape as every other planet in the fucking observable universe? You blow my mind. I am sorry. There's a whole shit ton of comments I haven't seen yet. Let's get to them. This is going to be bad. Hi, Russ. I haven't fallen off yet. Neither have I. Wormholes. Oh, we'll get to that after. How about I put on Facebook, apparently we're all dead since we got sucked into a black hole in 2012. And it was just, I read that recently too. Okay, the one thing about that one that I like, and I didn't include it in my conspiracies, it explains the Mandela effect for people, though. If we moved into an alternate universe. Just saying. I just still want to be right about the Oscar Mayer Wiener thing. That pic looked like we're being raped by a beaver. Jesus.
Every time I see that picture of the space turtle, I have an 80s theme song going through my head of some Saturday morning cartoon or something.
Perfect. It's absolutely perfect. So yeah, that's my number 5, but that's also the one that affects me.
I really thought that was going to be your number 1.
Well, you know why I didn't make it as my number 1? Because everybody knows it as my number 1. So I made it my number 5. just to kind of get it out of the way. And plus, I knew I was really, really, really going to go off on it. And we'll probably go off on it some more in a little bit. Sorry, Space Beaver or Space Turtle. Okay, so number 2 on my list. Have you ever heard of Pizzagate?
I haven't.
So Pizzagate, what's that?
But I'm intrigued.
So Pizzagate was this thing where people were saying that Hillary Clinton was sending people to this pizza shop in New York, I think. I forget. I don't have it here offhand. And sending people there to go basically be pedophiles and like order kids and stuff like that. So this conspiracy got so out of hand that this motherfucker here went there and shot up the business thinking that the conspiracy was true. Listen, I understand a lot of people, but I get a lot of you guys are easily swayed once you get to, like, you'll find something on the internet that you're like, okay, I kind of agree with that. And then you'll follow that thread, and then you'll see something else that you normally wouldn't agree with, but because it was posted by the people that posted that first thing you agreed with, you give it a shot. And then you're like, oh, okay, maybe that makes sense. And then you start falling down the rabbit hole. And then you start blindly accepting a lot of this shit.
That's how cults work.
I got so much shit on a post that I put on TikTok and on Facebook about, someone had asked, if you don't, name a celebrity if other people don't like them, you think there's something wrong with them. I said Tom Hanks. I got called a pedophile because they said that he was on Jeffrey Epstein's island and planes and all this. There is not one single photo anywhere of Tom Hanks with Epstein or any kind of anything like that. Yet all these people that say that, every single one of those people, I checked their profile, every single one of them was a Trump supporter. There are multiple fucking pictures of Trump on the plane with fucking Epstein at Trump's fucking hotel, them all hanging out, and nobody says shit about that. Trump only distanced himself once all that shit came out about Epstein. Yeah, listen, I get that, like, pedophilia is fucking horrible. So don't go fucking trying to switch us around saying that I'm supporting this or I'm supporting that. I'm saying you're stupid for you're not doing your own research. Go out and find any evidence of actual evidence, not just, oh, this person said. Talk about what you know, not what you hear. Plain and simple. Like, oh my God, that shit drove me crazy. And for you to come after me for that shit, like, it's bad enough you're going after Tom motherfucking Hanks.
Right.
Like the real life fucking Mr. Rogers. The guy who, if you pass out at a bar, he's going to sit down beside you and take selfies with your picture. I mean, it's to me, that's so silly and so infuriating. But I digress. So let's move on. Next up on my list, Hollow Earth. Have you heard the Hollow Earth thing? We talked a little bit about it earlier. Lizard people live here. I think our guest might be able to tell us some stuff about this later on because he knows a lot about myths and history. So I think I'm anxious to hear what he's going to say about some of this. But this is a real thing that people talk about as well. I don't know how I feel about it. I really don't, because the one place we've never really tried to discover is the depths of the earth. You know, we try to go as deep as we can in the ocean and we haven't come close, but there's still so much more. So that's my number 3. I'm going to kind of fly through these here. Up after that, it kind of coincides with the Hollow Earth. We talked about it. We had a commentator talk about it earlier. Reptilian people. And you said you've never heard this before, Steve.
No, I've definitely never heard the lizard people before.
I am literally shocked you haven't heard about the lizard people before, because this is a theory I think goes back to at least the 80s, if not longer. And it's another one that kind of stems out of that hollow earth. But like I said, we got a history guy that's going to be coming on, and we'll talk a lot about that with him. Number 4, well, here's honorable mention. Do you know Finland's not real?
What?
So there's a conspiracy theory out there that a lot of people saying that Finland, which we're seeing portrayed as water right here, actually doesn't exist. That Russia and Sweden are just extended, and then it was a deal between Russia and Japan so that they could control the fishing routes in that area. Listen, I'm just putting them out there, folks. I know there's like 12 comments out there. We're going to get to them, I promise. I have to hit my very last one, and this one is the one that blows my mind the absolute most. Steve, I think we may have talked about this before. Have you seen this before?
Birds aren't real. I have seen this one, yes.
Birds aren't real?
So
I believe it was Obama, right?
Right. Obama's initiative. Yes, this new, he's got these robotic birds out there. This is the design of the birds. They have the inductive charging coil through their feet that leads to the battery through their abdomen. Their CPU, as you can see, is in the chest, a speaker that comes from the, their throat area, microphone, cameras, wireless antenna. I mean, folks. So when we said earlier the only people we won't apologize for kind of poking fun at were flat earthers and Nazis, there's a third to the list. If you believe birds aren't real, you get thrown in with the Nazis and with the flat earthers. I'm sorry. And again, when I say I'm sorry, that's the Canadian in me. I don't mean I'm sorry. I'm sorry for laughing, because I mean that as serious as possible. All right, so that's it for our top 5. Folks, we're going to get to your comments in just a second here. Luke Tough, lizard people are in a lot of popular culture, Doctor Who, and the Land of the Lost for 2. Yeah, and I'm a Doctor Who fan, a Whovian, if you will, and I absolutely love their take on the lizard people. If you want to see an insurance conspiracy theorist, check out Mud Fossil University on YouTube. I'll do it. I'll check it out. Well, I tell you what, let's talk real quick about our sponsor. Folks, are you looking for internet? Are you in Canada? Are you looking to save a little bit of money? Hey, listen, you don't have to sacrifice good service for cheap prices. Do like Steve is pointing to. Go give Tony a call over at DocNet, docnet.ca, serving you from coast to coast in Canada, home phone and internet. How good is the internet? Well, let me see. I'm live streaming right now. My son is playing Xbox Live in the living room. I have my Netflix playing in the background right now. Sorry, not Netflix. It's actually Disney Plus playing in the background right now. And there's this great service going on. So that's what I can tell you. If you're looking for that, go give DocNet a try. DocNet.ca. Tell them RatG TV sent you. And man, that's it. Now, Steve, we normally do your 5-second movie review right now, but we've got a special guest that I would like us to get to. But before we get to our special guest, I want to do a little segment that we introduced lately, which is called TikToker of the Week. And this week for our TikToker, we've got that storytime guy.
Universe, it's a common universe.
Oh.
In all of history, there has been one successful connected universe, and it ain't Marvel. And if we're counting TV shows, congratulations, Arrowverse, you're up there too. In fact, the only successful connected universe franchise out there has been Toho's Godzilla. Now, I'm not saying Toho's Godzilla was perfect, but I am saying that its cinematic universe worked better than any other. It's not the DCEU, which was officially killed in 2020, that was supposed to start with Green Lantern, but because that movie was a flop, they just brushed it under the rug. But how are they still making DC movies if the universe is dead? Yes, they're still making DC movies, but a connected universe? it's gone. If they can connect movies, sure, that's great, but that's not their plan going forward. And while The Conjuring is doing good, it's not a connected universe, it's a common universe. I know it's splitting hairs, but let me explain the difference. A connected universe is taking multiple different movies and then connecting them together, hence the name. A common universe, though, is when you start with one movie and everything branches out, like The Conjuring. And if you don't care about the difference between common and connected universe, then yeah, The Conjuring's doing pretty well itself. I mean, the movies aren't great, but hey, people are enjoying them. And what happens when you want to make a cinematic universe, but your first film is garbage? You just start again! But what if that movie is also garbage? For some, they'd give up, but Universal, they don't do that. Universal disbanded the entire cinematic universe department, and then Invisible Man came out and they went, you know what? Let's try a third time. And so they are. And finally we get to Marvel, the most successful / unsuccessful connected universe there has ever been in history. Yes, the Avengers created a cinematic masterpiece that completely changed the landscape for all movies and TV shows going forward. But it has been a bumpy road. Exhibit A. These are award-winning TV shows that will never, ever be connected to the major universe. And why is that? Because Kevin Feige hates the TV department. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. never even got to put the Marvel Studios logo on their stuff. They were stuck with the janky Marvel. The Inhumans was supposed to be a movie. Yeah, that didn't happen. Even DC was like, look, you guys will never be in the movies, but hey, you can all play nice together. In fact, Marvel's TV division doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. So all those shows you were excited to see, yeah, they're dead in the water, they were never canon. I'm sorry, accepted. Now, don't get me wrong, Marvel is fixing these problems, but to say the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been a smooth, perfect ride, well, that'd be a lie. And all of that is still ignoring the whole Spider-Man Sony fiasco. Have a magical day, everyone, and don't forget, nothing's more important than family. How are you still alive?
I love it. That is the one and only Matthew Torres, the Storytime guy. I follow him on TikTok. Great guy. I mean, he does mythology. He does, fairy tales from around the world. And obviously he does the superhero stuff as well. And I'm just happy to bring him on board. We actually have him here with us today.
Hi, how's it going?
Right now, Matt Torres. How you doing, the Storytime guy?
Good. How's it going, guys?
Doing great. Thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, of course. When you said you were going to feature, I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I would love to go on this. It sounds fun. It's, and every time I think we talk, we discover we have more and more in common with each other, So it's like, super happy to be here.
Now, it is great. Now, tell everybody at home what they can expect to see on your channel.
Yeah, I made the channel originally because I really wanted to do, it was Halloween, I think it was like September, October, and I was like, I want to do Halloween stuff because I've always wanted to talk about nerdy stuff. And for the longest, I would post on Instagram and Instagram stories, which was like my 40 friends, and they're like, okay, cool. And my wife kept saying hey, do this new thing, TikTok. I know it's for kids, but do it. I was like, okay, sure. So I just started saying what was ever on my mind and fairy tales because I love fairy tales. And it was October, so it was Hispanic Heritage Month, and it was Halloween. So I was like, perfect. This is everything I want to do. And I'm a huge nerd. I'm in my son's room, hence this whole background. My son's a huge nerd. He's playing, so you might.
Yeah, you'll fit right in.
Yeah, exactly. So my son, he's a huge nerd. So he's in here with me, and so it's for me. It's I didn't think TikTok would be as fun as I thought it would be, and then I did it, and I started getting comments and messages. People like, "Hey, thank you so much," and that's why I really like doing the diversity thing because when I talk about African American stuff, I have people go, "Oh, my granddad had a gun that was named after that fairy tale, and I never knew why he named it that, but now I know." And so it's just that kind of stuff really just gets me, and there's people getting more into their culture, especially as a Latino who didn't grow up. I had a white stepdad, so I really didn't my mom she jumped the border. She was, I'm Mexico, but now I'm an American, so I don't do that anymore.
Right.
So it's it's for me, that's what I wanted to do.
So what is your background when it comes to education then, Matt? Because you know a lot of history and you know a ton of, like I said, a lot of fairy tales and not just that, just a lot of mythology as well.
Yeah, so I have a bachelor's degree in film. I have half of a master's degree in English and creative writing with a focus in screenplays that Disney paid for because I off and on work with them. It's like Disneyland Resort. They pay for you to go get your degrees and whatever. COVID happened though, so but yeah, so that was pretty much me getting my master's degree. I was like, oh, I'll do this because I want to work for Disney in some capacity. And they're like, yeah, well, you're part-time, so we'll pay for you to, go get your degree. And I was like, sure, yeah, I'm not going to have to pay a dime. And they're like, yeah, we'll pay for all of it up front. I was like, hell yeah, yes. So I was an IT supervisor, working like 50, 60 hours a week. And so I was like, you know what, I really want to do this. I don't want to do this no more. And yeah, I just started reading fairy tales and a lot of books. I've loved fairy tales my whole life. My wife is an equally huge nerd. So when I got with her, it was just like Disney fairy tales. Let's look up the history of all these characters. And from then, I have a giant bookshelf and I read constantly. My wife reads constantly. My son reads constantly. So for me, it's just like, I just love reading and diving into it. So
That's awesome.
This is my son's little head. You gonna get out, dude? There you go. Watch out for the cup.
And we got a question here from the audience. Says Matt, what do you think about Rogue One? If it's negative, then you're wrong.
No, so look, like I love Star Wars. I love Rogue One, and I think the coolest thing about Rogue One is that it showed that Star Wars was able to do the impossible. That we always thought, like, hey, they have to do this high fantasy fairy tale in space, and it's not possible to do anything else. For me, it's like you watch episodes 4 through 4, 5, 6, episodes 1, 2, and 3, and you're like, all right, this is what we're gonna get forever. It's a high fantasy space opera. And Rogue One went, no. Like we can connect this. What were those people doing? But they fully went when everyone started dying. I was like, oh my God, Disney, you're crazy. Like they're all gonna live, right? Like the droid can't die. Oh, he's dead. And then everyone started dying. You're like, oh, this is a different kind of Star Wars. So I love Rogue One. I think it took a little while to get where I wanted to get to, but once it got there, man, it is one of the best just heist type movies that we've witnessed in recent years. So no, I love Rogue One. I definitely won't disagree with you on that.
So here's a piggyback question to that one then. Best hallway scene or best entrance in Star Wars? Is it Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One?
Or Luke Skywalker.
Or is it Darth Maul's hallway scene in season 7?
Duel of the I know, because
and I know, Steve, you haven't seen the Clone Wars one yet.
No, I'm still only in season 3.
It's okay. So I will say,
Daddy, with my head.
That's a good question. I'm gonna say, look, I loved when Darth Vader came, and I'm a huge Darth Vader fan. My wife is a huge Darth Vader fan, and I thought that was really sick for him to just hey, this Rogue One ended on a good note, but we're gonna make it better. Right. Having said that, I don't think I fangirled as hard as I did watching Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian as I have since Avengers Endgame final scene. Because seeing Luke Skywalker, it for me, I was like, look, Vader showing up in a Star Wars movie makes sense. But Mandalorian, I was always felt like, hey, we're kind of outside. Like Ahsoka, sure, but she's a floaty. She's for Luke Skywalker to come in, for me, I was like, there's no beating that. I love Vader. It was super cool seeing him. But to see Luke Skywalker just tear, we've all known it. We all know he can do this stuff. But for them to bring it into canon, no, Luke Skywalker was and will continue to be a badass to the day he died. That to me, I was like, this is the moment where Star Wars became a masterpiece. So nice. I got to say Luke Skywalker.
Now, just careful what you say about Ahsoka. She is right to your left.
Oh yeah, look. Oh, what is that? This side. Yes, left.
What about you, Steve? Steve's a huge Star Wars guy. Which one stood out for you the most out of the two, Luke and Darth?
That's a tough one because I unfortunately I kind of had a feeling about Luke being at the end of the Mandalorian there. So it was very cool and I absolutely loved it. But just kind of knowing that was going to happen possibly, I think the Vader thing came out of left field. I was just like,
that was my face exactly.
Yeah, exactly. The Vader one just blew everybody away. To me, I still don't think there's been a better Star Wars movie made than Rogue One. And admittedly, I'm not the Star Wars guy of the group. I'm a Star Trek guy, admittedly, but I'm a Filoni Star Wars fan, I guess, if that makes any sense. Like I was a Star Wars guy. I liked Star Wars, but never loved it. I loved it once Clone Wars came out and all the connected universe that Filoni kind of added to it.
More love Jar Jar.
Go ahead.
Sorry, that jab in the Mandalorian. Sorry, that jab in the Mandalorian, where he's like, "What's it? You saw Gungan under there?" Like, I don't know if if it was improvised or not, but my God, the fact that they're like, we can still poke fun at ourselves. Like, we can still poke fun at ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Luke says all true fans saw the X-Wing and thought, "Damn, that's Luke." Also, why I have badass name Born 79. My dad was like, "Let's call him Luke." So I guess whenever I enter a room, it's like the Mandalorian. Yeah, that's true though. When I saw the X-Wing, I thought the same thing. Actually, the first thing that came into my mind was the actor from Kim's Convenience. I thought it was him.
Simu Liu?
Yeah.
No,
not Simu Liu, but the one that had the cameo in one of the Mandalorians earlier.
The Night's Planet there.
Yeah.
Oh, I get you.
Yeah, and then I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. And then once I saw the green lightsaber, I was like, oh, yeah.
Here, give me that, Peter. Sorry.
I'm like, it's over now. Will says, never really liked Star Wars, but I did like The Force Awakens. Yeah,
agreed. I mean, I've liked Star Wars since I was a kid. I was born in 91. So when I was the perfect age for Phantom Menace and Clone Wars when those came out. And I remember as a kid going, why would anyone want to watch episodes 4, 5, and 6? They look so lame. The episodes 1, 2, and 3 look so much cooler. And then, I don't know, I was like 15, 16, and I sat there and I thought, these movies got no story. And I watched the 4, 5, and 6 because we had them on VHS, and I sat and I was actually watching them. I was like, damn, why did I watch episodes? Why didn't I watch these more? You know, and then as you get older, you're like, there's appreciation for both. Entertainment comes in all ways. So, like, I get that. But my wife was never a Star Wars person. Never saw a single episode until we started dating. And we started dating like a few months before Force Awakens came out. So I was like, oh, perfect opportunity. And I told my wife, like, hey, watch 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. And then we saw episode 7 together, midnight premiere. And it was seeing them in theaters. I loved it.
I have to go, Vader. That scene was amazing. Facebook user, not sure who that is. And Luke says, Luke was badass because he was only half trained and winged it from there on in. Can we talk about, Steve and I talk about this quite a bit, Star Wars, toxic fans, or male toxicity when it comes to the Rey character. Yeah. I get so sick and tired of people saying, Rey had no training and beat Palpatine. Luke Skywalker literally trained on the Millennium Falcon for half a second with a lightsaber and then took on the Death Star, able to fucking use the Force to shoot that little hole, then train on Dagobah for what, a week and a half? And it beats Vader and Palpatine in the same day.
And the thing is, too, is that people don't understand, training is irrelevant. Even if Rey, which she had training and she has her own experience, even if she had no training whatsoever, the whole scene at the end of Force Awakens is that she realizes, oh, I can use magic. And she doesn't need training. People forget, and I think there's something me and you like first started our friendship on, is that like Star Wars is not sci-fi. It's a space fantasy. Exactly. There's no sci-fi elements to it. There's nothing that you see. George said it himself. He's like, I wanted flying cars because I wanted flying cars. I don't care the realistic of it. I just thought, I want flying cars. I don't care how it's done because this is a space fantasy. Exactly. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly. So when people are like, well, it doesn't make any. Why do the bombs drop off in episode? Look, it doesn't need to matter. It's our science might not match their science, and it's magic. It's just space magic, man. Yeah. Like she could do a triple backflip. We've seen people use outlandish feats that require like Yoda. He's a tiny, like 3,000-year-old little dude flipping around. Where's his training for that? Where did he learn how to train to do flips? It doesn't matter. He's a space wizard. Like it's.
Yeah, he's a space frog. Leave him alone. Leave old man Kermit alone.
Exactly. It's like for me. That's what I would say. It's like it's magic. It doesn't need to like. I'm not making excuses for story elements that you're like, well, hold up.
Right.
That's its own thing. You can complain about that all you like and whatever. But when it comes to like the Force,
I totally agree. Agree, I do. No, we could talk to death Star Wars forever. And like you said, we founded our friendship basically on our mutual agreement that Star Wars is magic and Star Trek is,
yes,
based
exactly.
on
Star Trek is sci-fi.
science.
Exactly.
Yes.
When you watch sci-fi, and like the thing is, and I get it, because sci-fi, I guess, isn't as popular now as maybe it was before. Like even when I was growing up, it wasn't the biggest thing, but you still had stuff like Total Recall and Minority Report, which is sci-fi. You just have to kind of realize that it's sci-fi, and you go back to like Isaac Asimov and these older kind of sci-fi things from the early 1900s, late 1800s, where they're like, what if we shot people into space with a cannon? You're like, that's crazy, but it's sci-fi because that's the basis for things. They thought, well, like, it wasn't just let's just shoot it into space. They thought, well, that's how you have to break a certain speed to get there, and this is, so it's like, that's sci-fi.
Well,
that's Star Trek. Star Trek does their sci-fi.
What are we doing right now that they do on Star Trek every episode? They're on the main bridge and they're talking through a view screen. They are doing they're doing
cell phones, androids. I mean, the whole Blade Runner. Do androids dream of electric sheep?
I think they do.
Okay.
Well, Data does. Data dreams of Picard. We found out, or Picard.
And it's like that's sci-fi. That's an existential question of like, well, do androids dream? Well, what's the capacity of an android to live? Does dreaming even? How do you quantify dreaming? Is it just like something we all do? Are we all So it's. No, I agree. It's relevant, but I think a lot of people don't realize that sci-fi is what they're watching when it's sci-fi and when it's space stuff. Like there's a different. Like Interstellar is sci-fi. There's an actual science behind all of that. Whether it's accurate science, that's up for debate for scientists. I'm not one of them. But when you're like, Star Wars, other kind of space stuff, I can't think of anything like Firefly, Joss Whedon's Firefly, that kind of stuff. It's like cowboy western space. That's not sci-fi, really, but it's fun.
Yeah, and I love Firefly till the day I die. Will says maybe do the Jetsons. I would like to see the Jetsons done as a live action sitcom. I am not even kidding a little bit. I think that would be so hilarious.
I think if it was self-aware, it would be hilarious. If like the opening scene of when like she just takes his wallet will never not be funny to me. And I think like either Family Guy or Robot Chicken riffed on it, where he's like, no, I gave you the money, you take the money, this is my wallet. Like I love that because that's such a timeless. That will be funny in 100 years, 200 years, because that will continue to happen throughout history.
The only thing I hope for a live action Jetsons, and I don't mean the Jetsons themselves. I just want to see some minorities on the show. Period. The Flintstones and the Jetsons give me no. I will never want to be a time traveler because I can't go to the past because there's no black people there. I can't go to the future. We're not there either.
And for me, it's like, because I love Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft. I love him. I'm entirely aware that he was a racist. He was a little bit, and then he really dove into it. And then as he got older, he's like, you know what? Maybe I'm the bad guy in this situation. Maybe I shouldn't do this. So for me, it's like, I think there's levels to it. Like, I think the reason that there's no brown people in the Jetsons or the Flintstones is because there was no brown people in the writing rooms or they didn't grow up. You had these people either growing up in suburbs or, like Walt Disney. He grew up in the Middle East, not Middle West, kind of, I think was Ohio, near Chicago area. Yeah, so Midwest. So he didn't grow up around brown people. And he went to California, and then he didn't meet brown. And he was the first person in history to hire a brown animator. And that guy's like, look, I can't speak for everything Walt Disney's ever done, but he was never racist to me. So it's like, is he a little racist? Yeah. So I think in those instances, it's like, look, I don't think it would be disingenuous to the source to put brown people in there. Right. I think at the time they were just like, look, we're white guys. We're in a room full of white guys. We're going to make white characters. So, I think that's how it was. I don't think there was any racism. Maybe. But I don't think there was anything unintentional. It's like you go, I write off what I know. You like.
It's like the comic books back in the day.
Exactly.
It's the same thing with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby writing what they knew, and that's why Steve Rogers, as much as people don't want to admit it, he's probably a Jewish kid. Like, really? Peter Parker, same deal, though.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
seriously.
Peter Parker is a little Jewish
They
boy.
wrote about themselves. Like, really? Like
Yeah, and that-
Bill Simon and Jack Kirby, I think, did Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
it's the truth of it too. It is like I think I read somewhere that Stan Lee specifically said he never wanted to state Peter Parker's religion because he wanted Peter Parker to stay this like all-encompassing everyman, and he felt if he tagged a religion onto him, it wouldn't be that way. But regardless, that didn't stay that way. He eventually did get Jewish, and it's great and it's cool, and I'm so hyped for it. You know, so
let me ask you, as another visible minority like myself. And Steve's heard me talk about this to death. How do you feel when it comes to them changing a white character to a minority-based one? Now, let me preface this by first saying I am fully for Wolverine being indigenous, only because we've never, and I'm a huge Wolverine fan. My son's named Logan. I
dressed up as him every Halloween for like 8 years.
Yeah, I have no problem with him being indigenous because with the origins, like we've never talked about it ever, and it's never been said what he is. We know his mom's white, and she had an affair with their housekeeper, basically the garden.
Yeah,
Logan, Mr. Logan. So
yeah,
I'm all right with that. But what about you? For aside from that, other characters like a Black Johnny Storm.
For me, well, so I don't know if you know this, but the rumor is that the main character from In the Heights, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, the Puerto Rican dude, Dominican Republican dude, the Latino guy from In the Heights, main character. He's the front running position for Johnny Storm.
Really?
So, but John Krasinski and Emily Blunt are still in the top running for Susan Storm and Reed Richards. So it's like, well, yeah, you're like, well, so if they cast Johnny Storm as a Latino and his sister and the actress playing his sister is white, what are they going to do? And I think it's one of those things of they could be half, they could be adopted, they could be step siblings. It really could just be thrown away in a glance. And for me, if the character's race and culture is important, then it's important. If it's not important, then I don't see the problem. Like Black Panther obviously has to be careful, Peter. Black Panther obviously has to be from Africa. He's African. He was raised as an imperialist kind of thing, and so he has to be that way.
Yeah.
Steve Rogers, to me, has to be white. There's no way in the late 30s, early 40s, I don't know the exact time of how long it took for him to get there. There's no way they would have given it. They wanted the American dream position, and that's a blue-haired, blonde-eyed white guy. Yep. That's what they wanted. And to me, I'd be like, it's not, and I've had this discussion with my friend Dom, who's African-American, and he's got his roots in New Orleans. And I'm like, well, what about Gambit? Like, from New Orleans, he could be black. And he's like, nah, like, he's Cajun, and Cajuns are really white. Like, that's not, it would be weird for him to be black. I was like, oh, okay, like, I get you. For me, Bobby Drake, it doesn't matter. Bobby Drake is Bobby Drake. His ethnicity doesn't matter.
What about the reverse, though? So what about someone, say, like, Blade?
Yeah.
Blade doesn't need to be black, right? Because he's if you read the comics,
yeah, he doesn't technically need to be black. But here's the thing. So it's like I think that's where there's levels to it. So it's like if there was an equal amount in a perfect world, there would be an equal amount of characters of all ethnicities and backgrounds and genders, right? But that's not how it is right now.
Right.
So it's like to say like, oh, well, they could have cast anyone to be Blade. But the depth of characters who are African American or, well, I guess he's British technically. I don't know what they'll do with him. But like the depth of different diversities and people of color in comic books is very small.
Right.
It's like I always have discussions like, okay, there's more half Latinos than there are Latinos in comic books. It's like, oh, Miguel O'Hara, he's half Latino. Miles Morales, he's half Latino.
Yeah.
It's you look at Kyle Rayner from DC, he's half Latino.
I didn't even know Kyle Rayner was Latino.
Yeah,
I've been
reading
Green Lantern forever, and I had no clue until you just said that.
Kyle Rayner, but you look at their names too. Miguel O'Hara, you wouldn't know he's Latino. What do? They make him slightly brown and give him black hair. Yeah. Miles Morales. Like for me, it's like, and I've had discussion and I've gotten heat for this whole thing of like, for me, Miles Morales feels like they made a black character and then they went, wait, let's cover all our bases and make him Latino too.
Yep.
And we'll add the name Morales. And I'm like, but why is his last name Morales? It doesn't. His dad is black. It's not his. Why would I don't?
His mom's the Puerto Rican one, right? Is it pure?
Yeah, his mom's Puerto Rican, but he took his mom's last name, but his dad's, that I don't get why. So for me, it's like there's certain things that I'm like, and like I didn't word that correctly when I first did it. So occasionally you'll still people say like, didn't you say Miles Morales isn't Latino? I'm like, no, he deserves better Latino representation because it's been really bumpy. I'm a huge fan of him. I named my first son Peter after Peter Parker, and me and my wife agreed that if we ever had a second son, we name him Miles. So for me, it's like, but to get back on subject, I think if we had a bigger pool of multiple people, yes, identities and ethnicities wouldn't matter most of the time. But as it is right now, like 90% of the heroes are white guys. It's okay if we take a little bit of them, and I will fully acknowledge that there is that weird trend where, regardless of comic books, they keep making redheads black people.
Yeah,
and I don't know. Yeah, I've noticed that too. Like everyone's like, why do they keep turning redheads into gingers or into black people? And I'm like, that's not. Oh my God, that is a thing.
I don't know. The new Batgirl, the one playing Barbara Gordon, who Barbara Gordon's a ginger, is
the Little Mermaid.
Yeah, I forget her name, but yeah, she's black. The one who's playing Guy Gardner though is not a black dude. They made it a white dude.
Yes,
but he's dark hair.
But there's, I can guarantee if you looked up the list, there'd be a lot because I'm like, why is that?
West?
Yeah, Wally West is the black guy now. And it's like, for me, it's like, that is a strange thing. But at the same time, and granted, I'm not a redhead. I don't know if there's a subculture where they're like, we're united. But I'm like, but that, you guys.
Don't let the beard fool you. Don't let the beard fool you. I'm actually blonde.
No, I've got red hairs in my beards too. It's for me, it's like, I don't know if that's, like, I get it. Because at the end of the day, we all just want to be seen. We all want to be like, hey, that character looks like me. Like, my son was a big Luca fan because he loves fish, and he's a light-skinned, curly-haired, black hair. So he sees Luca, and he first thing goes, that's me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, and he loves Luca. And we went out, we bought him a bunch of Luca merchandise. So, like, for me, it's like, I think, and that's why when I grew up I was the only brown kid. I grew up in a white neighborhood, went to white schools. All my friends were white. So, like, whenever I saw a character who wasn't white, I was like, oh, War Machine. He's one of my favorites. Oh, Venom, which, not technically black, but he was the black suited, anti-hero. So there's like a lot of things when I grew up, I was like, I'm the black guy. And so is this weird like body dysmorphia, like when you're the brown guy, but you're not black, growing up around white kids when the only media in front of you is 6 white guys and a black guy, you're the black guy.
Yeah.
And then you meet black guys and you're like, that's I don't associate with that at all. I'm Latino. So it's this weird thing. And
for kids at a young age to be able to see themselves represented in that way and being accepted in that universe for a child's development to say, okay, they're accepted in that universe, and so I need to accept people in my universe.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I always see with him too. It's like whenever he sees something, he immediately he'll love. I mean, this kid loves Pokemon, Pac-Man. It doesn't matter. He loves everything, but he does get drawn to things where he can put himself into there, where he can be like, oh, that's me. And that's when I was growing up. The reason I loved Green Lanterns, and I know the oath to this day, is because Kyle Rayner. I was walking to a comic book store. I saw Kyle Rayner, and I went, that guy looks like me. And I picked it up, and unfortunately, it was the Fridge issue. So I was like, oh my God, this is gnarly. Yeah, so Major Justice or whatever that guy's name.
Oh yeah, when I interviewed Gail Simone.
Right.
That's right. Because she hates the Fridge issue.
Yeah, that was the first DC comic I ever picked up. That was the first one.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh my God. And I remember seeing, and I was like, this is nuts. I was like, this is the comic books can do this? So for me, I was like, that's what really got me into comic books and everything, was seeing myself. And so I think going forward, that's what I want to see. I'm just worried that sometimes it can be disingenuous. So, there's definitely a healthy dose of, we want to do diversity. And then sometimes people going well, let's check off the marks, like the new Peter Pan movie. Oh, we're going to have a black woman, and then Peter Pan is Indian, but then Wendy and Hook will stay white, because there's this weird thing where nowadays you can't make the villain not a white guy. And I'm like, that's kind of racist though. Isn't every Disney movie nowadays, the white guy's always got to be a villain. So you're this weird
always follow the rich white guy.
Well,
and I'm like, the guys making these movies, producing these that's you. What do you guys do?
They're just telling everybody we're the villain. My son brought up a good point about Wolverine though being cast as a native, and that's the fact that Wolverine is so often referred to as a savage, and that is, a pretty derogatory term,
Yeah.
to indigenous people. So
Mhm.
I wonder,
Which is part of his character, to be savage.
yeah. So I wonder if that's something that works in favor of him being indigenous, or something that works against it, like they get some clap.
Yeah, it's like, I think that's one of those things where like you got to get if you want the good. What's that computer? You want to get the good, you got to get the bad a little bit. It's like, and this is something I've argued with because I'm big into Aztec culture and stuff recently, especially been reading tons of books and doing research and talking to it's the indigenous and talking to people who know the history of it. And for me, it's like they weren't a perfect people. Aztecs enslaved people, and this is fact of truth is that Aztec historians in Latin America, they tried to hide that fact because the fact was already known that they would eat people. They were cannibals. And they're like, look, if the rest of the world finds out that we're cannibals and we had slaves, they're going to look at us like we're really bad, and we don't want that. So we can talk about the cannibalism, but we don't want to talk about the slavery. And I talked to someone, someone's like, we Aztecs never owned slaves. And I was like, you did. We did. Like, it's the truth of it. I'm sorry, I know, but that's just history. It's like Native Americans. I read a lot about Native American indigenous stuff, and they don't have very good opinions of women who are menstruating. And so a lot of older fairy tales and a lot of just the fairy tales in general, they're not very nice towards women. And I'm like, look, that's just the fact of life. You can't say like, oh, I love this stuff, but never talk about or never deal with this kind of stuff. It happened. It did happen. It happens. No race is perfect. No character is perfect. And if an indigenous wants Wolverine to be indigenous, that's great. But understand, he is a very flawed character. He's an asshole. He has aggression issues. And regardless of his ethnicity or what they make him, he is going to be a mean person. Because I have a feeling they're going to make him a lot more comic book accurate than Fox did. So if that's the case, he's going to be the foil to Cyclops. And in which case, he's going to be a bad guy. And like he's not going to be Hugh Jackman, Charmin.
If they do it right, it'll be Wolverine's that asshole, and Cyclops is the Boy Scout. And over the next 10 years or so, those roles will reverse.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Cyclops becomes the biggest villain of them all.
That's what I want to see because I really like I know some people have their opinions. I like the Avengers vs. X-Men run. I liked when it was revealed Professor Xavier was a douche and Cyclops slowly started going towards that. Cyclops was right kind of thing. And like one of my favorite issues that I think perfectly encapsulates Wolverine is the issue where Spider-Man was killed. And he gets better. It's comic books. He gets better. But they're celebrating his funeral. It's right before he gets the spikes, the venom spikes in his forearms, and then they're like, nah, forget that. They're all at the funeral. They're all like sad and stuff. And Wolverine walks over to Mary Jane, and he's like, so, now that you're single, you looking for a good night? And Mary Jane's like, you beast. And she goes off on him. And I don't know if it's Captain Mary. Someone's like, Wolverine, what's wrong with you? And he's like, look, she was bottling in her anger, and she needed to let it out. And look, I don't care about her. She doesn't care about me. Who cares if she hates me for the rest of her life? She feels better now, and that's what's important. And I'm like, that is the most good guy asshole maneuver that perfectly does Wolverine. He's an asshole. Good intentions, but he goes about it the worst way. And that's what I want to see.
I don't think of him as an asshole. I like to think of him as Canadian.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. He's the sweet, like, I think if you were to meet Wolverine at a glance, you'd be like, not a bad guy. And then you find the stuff you do and go, oh, he had the right reasons, but
he fit in Welland very well. In our hometown where Steve and I live, he'd fit in perfect.
Drinking beers, just grumbling but excited, but because like I don't know, that's what I want to see. So for me, I'm like, if Ryan Reynolds is anyway involved, I want to see him involved with the casting of Wolverine because I feel like Ryan Reynolds would know who to cast for Wolverine.
Yeah. Do you have an idea who you want to see as Wolverine? Because right now it's looking like it's going to be Taron Egerton. Seems to be the front runner and has been for a while now.
For me, like, I can see that and I'd be fine. I just don't know where they're going with the X-Men because he's never called them the X-Men so far. He keeps calling them mutants. And I'm like, interesting note. And like, I don't know what he wants to do. There's been rumors that like fly around, and like as someone who has friends in film, like sometimes those rumors there's more truth to them than we like to let on, and sometimes they kind of let those out to like, is this a good idea? Let's feed it to this news person and let's see what they say. And if everyone's like, they're gonna make solo movies for the X-Men, I don't want that. They're like, okay, well maybe let's not do that. Because their story is set, but it's how they get there that they're really loose about, especially in Marvel Studios. So for me, like, I want them to be young. I know we saw it in the most recent X-Men movies, but I still want them to be young. I think for me, like, not saving the day, that's not what I necessarily want. I want them to be helping mutants. Like, go back and watch X-Men 1 and 2. That's what I want. I want them to be mutants helping mutants, dealing with mutant stuff. That's what I want to see.
I want them to read Chris Claremont's original run on the X-Men.
Giant Size X-Men?
And yes, and just get it right.
I would love that. I would love that.
I know how much people love Hugh Jackman, and Steve is sick to death of hearing me say this. But Hugh Jackman, while serviceable, to me was like the literal Disney version of Wolverine. He was, if they were to do X-Men on Ice or X-Men the musical, Hugh Jackman's great. That is not taking anything away from his acting ability.
But he's naturally charming. That's not exactly. It's not his fault that he's, I agree with you. It's the truth of it, I completely agree with you, especially on that point. Look at The Greatest Showman. They turned Barnum Bailey into a nice guy. He's a terrible person.
I mean, next he's going to play Thomas Edison, and people will love him when he
I know, right?
They don't like the elephant's ass. So, I know we're taking all your time, and we're starting to get...
No, so worry.
Oh, yeah. Well, do you want to stick around for the rest of the show, too, with us?
Yeah, I can stick around for a little bit. I'll give you the heads up when I still got like an hour and a half, so I'm all good with you guys if you love having me.
Lots of time, yeah. It's great having you. And I honestly want to get some of your opinions on some of your favorite fairy tales. Also,
and this is our conspiracy show, so if you have
yes, we want to know your favorite conspiracy, and I would like you to also, and try to keep this in mind for later, your favorite fairy tale that people get wrong.
I already know it right off the top of my head. Right off the top, I already know it.
Perfect. All right, so we will get to that, but I don't know if we've told you, we do a little thing here. Called Steve's 5-second movie review.
Yes, very excited for this.
Steve gets 5 seconds. We put him on the board, and Steve reviews a movie. Steve, again, remind the folks at home the movie that you will be reviewing this week.
So I went and saw the new M. Night Shyamalan movie, Old. If you have not seen the trailer, not trying to give away too much, but they end up going to this private beach at a resort. And weird things start to happen, and people start to rapidly age. So, well, with that, folks, I am on edge to see what Steve's 5-second review is going to do. That's our top of the line. Hey, Matt, if you liked the opening graphic, you're going to love the opening intro song for Steve's 5-second movie review. By Steve.
Wait.
Jazz hands. Always got to have the jazz hands there. That was not embarrassing at all, having a guest on while we do that. All right, Steve. So you are reviewing M. Night Shyamalan's movie, Old. I'm going to put 5 seconds on the board, analog style. As you see me starting to be beamed up by Scotty there. When you are ready, sir, you may begin.
This movie was 1 hour and 49 minutes, and I aged at least 7 hours and 42 minutes.
Oh, my God. So is it another M. Night Shyamalan snore fest, or is it another M. Night Shyamalan hit?
There's only those two.
Those movies where it really had me on the fence for the majority of the movie, but as the movie started to progress that way, I just knew it's going to be one of these movies that if the ending does not pay off for me, I'm going to be so disappointed. And
it didn't.
Although I don't think I really had any expectation for the ending because I was just like, how are they going to wrap this up? I have no idea. And the ending did how it was plausible. I guess it's plausible as it could be for an island where people age very rapidly. I think they figured it out. It was like a half hour was 1 day.
1 year.
Or 1
year.
No.
Yes, 30
Oh yeah, half
years.
hour was 1 year. Sorry, as I'm being corrected by my better half.
Can I ask you a quick question that I don't think is a spoiler? Is it the water or the island that ages them? Like, does it being in the water age them?
I'm gonna try to not give away too much here. So they're on a resort. They don't really say where. And then as the guests are there, they're handpicked by the concierge saying, I only tell a few people about this place and blah, blah, blah. And it's a really nice private beach. And they're driven there by their escort in a large van, their escort being M. Night Shyamalan.
Of course.
And when they're dropped off at the beach, they're surrounded by a huge rock face. And there's only one entrance to the beach. And as they try and leave, they black out and wake up back on the beach.
Yeah. Our Facebook user is saying that review does not sound promising.
Yeah, again, it was.
What is your score out of 5 on it before we get too far ahead there?
Because it kept me on the ropes for so long, and the ending, although not what I was expecting, and I may be hoping for a little more, was plausible. I still give it a solid 3.5.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad out of 5. It's watchable.
It's not his best movie. Now, if you want to gauge that, I was not a fan of Signs. I did like The Village. I think everybody hated The Happening.
I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I never watched Devil.
You know what?
I heard it was good.
Entirely in an elevator, I actually really liked it.
Yeah, I've heard
Agreed.
it a few times.
You
We're
agree?
having a request for us to show one of our favorite contributors of the show, and that, of course, is Clanny Shark, our mascot here. I'm sorry, Matt, but the fans have asked to see Clanny.
What is that?
So we
Is that from M. Night Shyamalan's next movie?
that is actually the next crossover movie between M. Night Shyamalan and Kevin Smith. Clanny Shark. It's actually the sequel to the Walrus movie.
Oh Lord, that movie was.
It was Kevin Smith. No, this is we did a story about a fisherman that had caught a shark and found 3 baby sharks. And this was one of the shark, a mutant. So we took it on as our mascot, Clanny.
Oh my gosh.
Well, as you can see, Clanny for obvious reasons. And then we have fans that made this. So, yes, you can thank Luke for that. But, all right, so yeah, that was most definitely the 5-second movie review. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Steve killing it as usual. Kurt, yeah, I'm not sure why it's showing up as a Facebook user either. And Luke says Devil was amazing.
Yeah,
It was. It was. I actually liked it. It was.
I'm not a horror fan, but
It was more suspense than horror.
thriller. Yeah,
Yeah, there was like some violence in there. I think there's a few brief moments of like, oh sh. But for the most part, it's mostly just suspense. You're kind of just like, who done it? And then I would say after like, without spoiling anything, after like the first 2 deaths, you're like, I figured it out. This is, I think there was an original script where like, is it the devil? Is it not the devil? Are they crazy? And then like he's like, no, it's the devil. It's the devil. Like we're not even gonna like humor that idea past the first 20 minutes. It's 100% the devil.
Awesome. So we're sitting here with Matt, the Storytime guy, Torres, and follow him on Facebook as well at That Story Guy.
Just TikTok. I don't have a.
I'm sorry. Force a habit there. That's what happens when I don't have the teleprompter in front of me. Yeah, we just finished up the 5-second movie review, and it is time for us to head into a little bit of news.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's some good music.
That's a big shout out to our producer, Jordan James, who's also the host of the Jordan James Show, Discovering Your Path to Success. You can check out new episodes of that on YouTube every Tuesday. Jordan just killing it there, and such a positive show with a really, really positive guy. So go check him out for sure. Now, starting us off, Mr. Steve, you're our Dr. Death. Why don't you start us off like you always do?
Yeah, this week being no different. Death does not take any days off. And this week we lost Spanish award-winning actress and mother of Javier Bardem, and that's Pilar Bardem. Also a huge activist and just an overall great lady. So,
Yeah, man.
I didn't know that. That's sad.
Yeah, when did that happen? When did she pass?
I believe it was 5 or 6 days ago at the age of 82.
It's a good long
still
life.
young.
But like I said, anytime when it's someone like that when you've got a celebrity who's also almost more known for her activism, that's when it's like, man, that's a rough one to lose, because they're making a difference out there and helping people out. And hey, man, not to get all fun, but that's my thing.
And then from the music world, for a founding member and co-frontman, violinist Robert Steinhardt died from complications of acute pancreatitis. He also did some work with Jethro Tull and many others.
Jeez. That's sad.
Yeah, man. Well, unfortunately, that's Steve. Steve is our Dr. Death.
I was like, Dr. Death, like death metal? Oh, death.
Yeah. He's the guy.
Yeah.
He is, yes.
I've actually called Guinness World Book of Records because I think I'm the only person on the planet that has seen Cannibal Corpse and Gordon Lightfoot. So,
and you've seen probably even lighter than Gordon Lightfoot, though. Did you go see Paul Anka?
Not yet. No, I got tickets for
COVID
last year, or 2 years ago, and COVID happened, obviously. So it was postponed. So it's rescheduled for November. I'm hoping that's going to happen. So
now, Matt, I don't know if you know of. I'm sure you've heard of one of these bands, but Steve has been on stage with both Green Jelly. I don't know if you know who that is.
I don't. But it's still an impressive feat.
You want to look them up on Facebook. They bill themselves as the worst band of all time?
Worst band in the world, yeah.
Yeah, worst band in the world. And he's also been on stage with Public Enemy and Flavor Flav.
Oh my! Of course you know who those. That's 2 feats though. That's pretty. I mean, getting on stage with anyone.
But both Grammy-nominated acts.
Yeah. Wait, Green Jello is a Grammy-nominated act, or is it just?
Yeah, they were nominated for Album of the Year.
The Three Little Pigs, right?
Oh, you meant Flavor? Yeah, I get you.
No, but didn't Green Jelly get for Three Little Pigs?
Yeah, no, it was for the album Serial Killer.
Oh, you're seriously? They really?
Yeah.
I thought you were kidding.
Alternative.
Well,
where he was, but yeah.
Yeah,
that's still so. Imagine we're the worst band in the world. You won an award. Damn it! You're ruining our reputation.
Right. And they did not turn up to accept it. So.
Yeah,
we've got another conspiracy coming in here. Luke says, "I'll say it again. Apparently, Frozen was created to take internet searches away from Walt Disney's head, freeze, and cryogenics as the family maintain it's not true." What?
That's that one.
I've heard various Walt Disney people who work at you'd think historians would know that, and they are blissfully unaware that was even a thing. I've read in your articles, people go, they think Walt Disney's head is where? Oh, it's frozen underneath Disneyland or Disney World, because Disneyland doesn't have an underneath. Disney World is the one with an underneath.
Right. Well, it might be he's actually frozen underneath the Denver airport.
Right.
See. Yeah, it's
the middle of Hollow Earth.
If he had told everyone hey, I'm dying, that'd be one thing. But the fact that he lied about that he was dying, and then a week before he died, he's like, "Hey everyone, I'm out the door. Have a nice day," and then he just dropped dead. I'd be like, look, if he was I'm old, I want to prolong my life, I'd be like, okay, sure. But the fact that he was just you have cancer, so you should stop smoking. I'm not gonna stop smoking. And then he just smoked to the dying day. It's
Like,
Okay.
that's a conspiracy we should have talked about as well. How many people thought that the government were lying to them when they told them to stop smoking cigarettes? Like, it was like, it's just them trying to control you and take your rights away so you can't have.
They're trying to suppress us.
And right. Well, actually, and to go back on the other one real quick, I actually do have an explanation. I do have a factual explanation for Frozen. So it started with Tangled. Disney realized that they couldn't copyright the names of fairy tales that they were already were public domain, like Snow White, Peter Pan. Those are the public domain names. And they realized when they were making the Rapunzel story, Tangled, that if they changed the name from Rapunzel to something more unique, they can copyright that name and therefore copyright the fairy tale character and still make money off of it without people trying to like hang on to their things. And so after Tangled, that's when they said, look, we're going to keep doing fairy tales, but we don't want the fairy tale name to be the name anymore because that's public domain. So Frozen is based, I cannot stress enough, very, very, very loosely off of, I think it's, I'm blanking on the name, the Ice Queen, I think it's called. And it is based off a fairy tale. And so they just were like, no, we don't want to call it the Ice Queen. We're going to call it Frozen. We don't want to call it Rapunzel. We're going to call it Tangled. So that's the explanation that I think, to me at least, makes sense.
And this is one of your fortes too, though, is not so much debunking Disney movies that are based on fairy tales, but giving the actual credit to where they go. And a lot of us just believe they took them from, Grimm fairy tales. But you go beyond that and explain how Grimm fairy tales actually stole the majority of their stories as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the people don't realize this. The Grimm brothers, they weren't writers. They were translators. They went around, and look, credit where credit is due. They went around, they spent years of their lives going to these places, going to these small little villages and towns across Europe and a little outside Europe, and writing all of this down and translating it to German. And then they were like, look, now we have this book. Now we can start giving it and translating it to everything and everyone. And that's their credit. But people think like, oh, they came up with these stories. They didn't come up with anything. That's why it's like, oh, Snow White's a German fairy tale. No. The first person to write it down was German. The story, we don't know. They didn't, if they did it German, they wouldn't say it. So there's that lot of misconceptions about a lot of fairy tales that they'll be like, oh yeah, it's this Grimm's Brothers or, this like, no, some fairy tales, yes. Like Hans Christian Andersen's Little Mermaid. He wrote that book in the late 1800s. That's his fairy tale. Little Mermaid is his idea.
Yeah.
It's like, but Aladdin, you don't know. Yeah. I'm sorry. Cool. Yeah. So, it's like, you don't really know sometimes where fairy tales come from. I think one of my biggest fairy tales, I don't know if I should say it, I can save it, but is Little Red Riding Hood. There's a very simple thing that I do. If it's a simple story, that's the original. The more you start getting complicated and using stuff from your culture, that's when you start going, it's a little, maybe it's not the original. So the original story is just called The Girl and Her Grandfather. It's an African story, and it's about a girl who travels through the woods, and there's a monster in the script, doesn't even say anything. It's like a 6-sentence story. A monster's in the woods, and she goes to her grandfather's house, and the grandfather's like, hey, how do I know it's you? Use a special knock that I taught my granddaughter. She uses a special knock. He lets her indoors. The end. And to me, that sounds more like Little Red Riding Hood with less steps, therefore the original. Because to me, you don't make your own fairy tale and go, okay, I'm going to start taking things out and not replacing them. Because that's the base skeleton. When you have stories like Cinderella, that are the original story supposedly is from Egypt. And you go, oh, the original story is that, and this is supposedly based on a true story, that this really happened, that an Egyptian or a Greek king was just chilling there and an eagle dropped a sandal on top of him. And he went, whose sandal is this? And he traveled around and he eventually found his way to Egypt, where a Egyptian woman, that was her sandal. She's like, yeah, I was by the river and this falcon picked up my sandal and flew off with it. And he's like, put the sandal on, and he's like, all right, you're my queen. And that's the original Cinderella. And you kind of go up from there, and the Greeks kind of took that story and made it their own, and then it eventually made its way to France, where we have the original story of Cinderella. Vice versa, you have the Africans going, well, look, like we have our own version of this story, and it's kind of like the Princess and the Frog. The African story goes is that there was a girl who her father had 2 wives, and her mother died. So it was just her and her father's other wife and daughter, and they didn't like her. So she's like, oh, I want to go to this party, but I don't have any clothes. And she befriends a frog, and the frog's like, hey, a lot of jewelry gets washed down this lake, so we'll just take you stuff. And she shows up to this party with all sorts of wacky jewelry, and they're like, but it's all nice jewelry, it's all ancient, and she looks unique, and the prince is like, oh, I gotta have her. And my favorite thing about this version is that she intentionally leaves her slipper behind so the guy will come find her. She's like, oh, I like this, but I gotta get going, and I can't tell him who I am. So here's my slipper, he'll come find me, he'll see that I live in a really crappy situation, and he'll save me. And it works out exactly that way.
So she was the catfish.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, her looks didn't change. Just the idea that she's super. And for me, I'm like, that makes more sense than like, oh, I accidentally left my golden slipper. But didn't the fairy tale say that your dress is going to turn back to normal when you're done? So wouldn't the slipper have disappeared? I don't really know that. So yeah, for me, it's like that's what I really like. And my biggest complaint about it is that one of the European historians who like this was brought up to him, he's like, no, there's no way a race of people who don't wear shoes could come up with a Cinderella story. And you're like, oh, you're a little bit of a racist. I'm starting to, I know you said this thing, but I'm starting to think it's this.
They don't have shoes?
Yeah. So, for me, I'm like, that's what I love about fairy tales. And then you get into African Americans and, it gets crazy. It gets crazy because, like, you have Latin America taking from African American tales, African tales, and it starts all coming together. And like, there's this weird. You have like there's skinwalkers. Native Americans have skinwalkers, but African Americans, who a lot of people don't know this, indigenous were really ingrained in the Southern culture. So they started talking to indigenous, and they eventually created the buhag, which is a creature that it causes you to be really depressed and anxiety. And the saying is, the buhag's riding you because you're depressed. Oh, so you need to be happy, go out and do fun stuff because the buhag's riding you. And if she rides you for too long, she's going to kill you and then take your skin. And it's like, that's a skinwalker. That's a skinwalker with some different steps, but that's a skinwalker. And so, like, you have all these different stories and things of, like, America's being, created, like Puerto Rico, for instance. You had the indigenous that lived there, and then you had the Spanish that came over there, and they had African slaves that were brought over there. So you had all these different cultures in this tiny island. And the truth is that the Spanish guys that were there, they went, oh, we don't have any Spanish women here. Well, we're lonely. So then they just started full circle, everything, cultures. And so you have all this weird mishmashed African, religious magics, indigenous religious magics, Spanish religious, indigenous magics. And like, that's, to me, is like, that's what I love about fairy tales, because you get these really weird things that you're like, well, how come that happens? And then you look, you're like, wait, they have the exact same thing. And it's just this whole cool thing. So
we've all got the voodoo. We've all got
exactly.
the voodoo. Like, really.
Yeah.
So now you talk a little bit about, things that were, how you take a story from before and you're making it new. That brings us into kind of our first story that we have here tonight. And did you know that Seth MacFarlane is remaking the classic Leslie Nielsen Naked Gun movies? And, okay, I can see Seth MacFarlane doing this, but the lead actor that he's got
is Liam Neeson?
It is none other than everybody who, when you think comedy, the first name that comes to mind is definitely Liam Neeson.
Well, because Liam Neeson worked with him in that Western movie.
Which did
who you are.
Which did terrible. It was an awful movie. But I can see why he'd like that. But also, didn't Liam Neeson get in trouble for saying stuff?
Yeah,
that's why he hasn't.
He's back.
Yeah,
he's back. Well, I shouldn't say to be fair. I guess kind of to be fair. The whole thing that he said, he was on a podcast and he said that one of his friends got raped by a black man, and the black guy got away with it, and he was so angry that he had blind rage. But he actually said he was ashamed of himself in this podcast. And he says,
"It's all good."
Yeah, he's like, "I'm ashamed of myself. I wanted to go out and just kill any black person I saw at that point because I was young and stupid at that point." But
I feel like that's a fair enough remark to make. It's exactly. Like, it's a dumb remark. Granted, a dumb remark to make but I think he's accepting that it's like it doesn't make sense. It's not just like, yeah, this black guy killed, so I want to kill a black man. But that's not the smart thing, and obviously he didn't. You know, so it's like, I get it. You know, I think
Yeah.
if he would have said something a little more racist, you know, I'd have been like, you know, it's like my mother sometimes says things. I'm like, Mom, you don't need to include he's a black guy. Well, he's a black guy. I understand that, but you've mentioned 6 other people. You just said man or woman, but the one black guy you say he's a black. I feel like this is just unnecessary to the point.
Right.
You know,
unless it's for descriptive purposes.
Yes, exactly. Unless it's important to the plot. I don't need to know that he was a whatever, you know. But I mean, look, if that's what I really didn't look into it, and that's why I'm just like, whatever, you know. I feel like that's justifiable. I feel like, you know, it's like the Avenue Q musical. They made a song. Everyone's a little bit racist. As long as you're not out committing hate crimes, it's okay. You know, like you're at a Mexican restaurant and the waiter doesn't speak good English. Like, oh, why? Like, come on. I understand that. I get it. You know,
it's a frustration.
Yeah, it's a frustration. We all have the things, and you know, I think he realized, like, look, this is dumb. It's, you know, it's.
Well, what
I wouldn't hold it too much against him. If that's how it went, I wouldn't. If he's like, look, I thought this, but that's racist and dumb, I'd be like, yes, you're forgiven. If he's like, well, I don't see how it's racist, I'd be like, well, sir.
Exactly. He owned it. That's what what I heard was him owning a mistake he made.
Exactly. Unlike Kevin Spacey.
A mistake he made that nobody knew about.
Yeah, he didn't have to bring that out there.
Listen, I was an idiot in the past. Nobody's even coming out to say this, so it's not like I'm just saying this to save face. I'm letting you know that you can change. That's what I heard. And I don't know if that's me growing up in a white neighborhood around white people that have said stuff that never meant it the way that it was. Or grown, you know. Right? Like,
I get you.
This guy right here is the only guy in my life that I know that I grew up that's never once, and I've known Steve since grade 3 or before then, and that's never made one racist comment ever. Like, even joking around. Like, even I've made racist jokes. Like, you know, but he's the one guy.
I get you, right?
Everybody equally, though.
I hate everyone equally. Yeah. Exactly. But there's a difference between hating everyone equally and be like, I'm racist towards everyone equally. Oh, well.
People just in general suck.
Yeah, see, that's my wife has the same opinion. Just everyone sucks. I hate everyone.
So what do you think of Liam Neeson in this role, Steve? Like, you and I both grew up with the original Naked Gun movies and grew up with a Police Story. I mean, Liam Neeson in this role?
I don't know if he's the best choice. I mean, he'll definitely be able to play it deadpan, but will it be good?
And will this be another Seth MacFarlane movie?
Don't you in the West. I love that movie.
I like Ted. I like Ted. I thought Ted was all right. I thought Ted 2 was weird.
Yeah.
But I like Ted a lot.
But I'd say if he has 3 movies out.
Yeah, so I think Ted 1, 2, and then 1,000 Ways to Die in the West.
He's 1 for 3 at this point. So, I mean,
well, 1,000 Ways to Die in the West was when he put a carrot in Liam Neeson's butt, right? There's something, right? He put something in his butt.
And the only reason why anyone actually believed he was sleeping with Charlize Theron, because why else would she do that movie?
You know, half that cast though, I feel like,
right?
Like, who is it? Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother. Who's the actor? Neil Patrick Harris. He was just like, why are you being in this movie? What are you?
It's not red. There's no rocks in it. What are you talking about? I don't know what he's talking about. There's something on your mouth. No, the other side. Are you talking to either one of us? Luke, have you run out of whiskey? That's the real question. Luke is coming to us from, I never know how to pronounce it properly, Gurney's. He's outside of England.
Oh.
Yeah. Great guy.
I'm drinking Canada Dry because, you know, in my see? Only ginger ale. Look, I'm not product placement. This is the best ginger ale in the damn world. It is. I've hated ginger ale, but I had this once. Like, give it a try, and I tried it, and now we get the 24-pack every week.
God! Have you tried the cranberry Canada Dry ginger ale?
I haven't, but I will.
So good.
I think they only put it out at Easter and Thanksgiving, but it is the best. I've tried to recreate it here at home in my lab, but I just can't.
Jack Daniels, he's one of my favorites,
especially the Tennessee Honey, and it is being mixed tonight with a Canadian cheap classic.
I don't think we have that
No,
in
you
the
don't.
US.
This is Canadian only. It's called Fago. I don't know how this has never come off the market, but Fago is it's the cheapest of the cheap for pop out here, and it's just sugar.
Good for getting stains out and
Right.
This-
No, Steve,
You're making up words. I'm convinced. I'm convinced. Have you guys seen How I Met Your Mother? And if so, what is your opinion on the whole Canadian view of that?
well, Colby Smothers really is Canadian.
yeah,
Okay, good. I figured she was. Like, there's no way there's some stuff that I feel like she improvised.
Vancouver.
That-
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's hard for Vancouver people or us in Southern Ontario that are anyone who's along the border. It's hard for us to, I guess, recognize the really thick Canadian accents that they do on Letterkenny or Trailer Park Boys because, that's like the East Coast or that's like, up north in the central Canada. And we don't talk like that. We don't talk like they do in Fargo. We sound
Like, I can hear the Canadian in your voices, but they really level it on. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
people say we sound like we're from New York or something until we say about or house. When we say those two words, people can tell that we're Canadian.
Or our pop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pop.
we
I was
say
gonna
pop.
say, I'm in Los Angeles. No one says pop. I don't. Soda is, I think, is our
You know
go-to.
who says pop in L.A.? Seth Rogen, Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, and Mike Myers. Well, not Mike Myers because he's kind of
Michael Myers.
the elitist asshole. No, I'm
Oh no! Oh wait, no, Michael Myers is the serial killer. Sorry.
I'm mostly kidding. But yes, as we move on here, Luke says the mouth one was with the tall fella, and he says there's something on your mouth. It's a whole banana. I'm
I
still.
think he had the whole bottle of whiskey. Is what I think that is.
Yeah, I'm so lost.
Do I have a banana?
You're playing the part of Ron this week.
Oh, behind you, maybe.
The what?
Maybe behind you on the wall.
Oh my conspiracy theory pie chart.
Chemtrails are real, man. The other day, a plane was driving by, and I started sneezing, and I knew I just got infected.
Well, they put microchips in that because
Hey, you just
they're
didn't.
very cheap. They're very cheap. Microchips.
So what did Melinda Gates say? Just like like not even a year ago, we haven't even invented microchips that small yet.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily.
But I mean, I know, but I don't think
It's like I don't beat my child unless they do something that makes me mad, and they haven't done that yet. So it's like, what? That's not
not
the wrong answer.
Oh, he was talking about Police Squad. Oh, sorry, dude.
Police.
I got
Squad.
you now. I got you. That was the banana. That was the banana.
I haven't seen those movies since I was a small child, and I didn't understand them.
Well, hey, well, you know something that would eat a banana. This is the worst segue ever.
Listen, people.
But, what would eat a really large banana, Steve?
Last week, we decided to do conspiracy theories as our topic this week. And I think on Tuesday, a Bigfoot in Michigan surfaced. Video of this was taken on the Cass River in Michigan by a kayaker.
Interesting.
So what am I seeing here? Because this is the same picture that's posted everywhere from the site.
So I didn't see the picture, but I did know.
Am I looking at a tumor? I feel like I'm looking at a tumor.
I'm not really sure. I didn't see this photo, but I have seen the video. It shows him crossing the lake, and it looks like he's carrying something. Could be, I don't know, maybe a small infant or something. And then he kind of turns back. Classic Bigfoot move, right? Turns back and disappears into the bush.
I like how the rest of the image is 4K Ultra HD, but that the zoom in is just like
It
16.
it was upriver from the guy on the kayak, and he was using his cell phone. So,
All right.
But some cell phones have. My camera has cell
yeah,
phone
mine has
4K.
great stuff.
Yeah, and you look at the Huawei's, they can take pictures on the moon. Like off the surface of the moon. I'm sure they can take pictures on the moon as well if they're out there, but I mean of the moon.
If Jeff Bezos lets them.
Leave Lex Luthor out of this. I'm really upset that the four of them didn't come back as the new Fantastic Four. That was me. I was on holiday in Michigan.
Maybe they did.
Yars.
Maybe they did. Conspiracy theory. Chalk it up.
There you go. I like it. Up next after Bigfoot. Okay, so Steve, you and I are Gen Xers. You and I, we didn't have a lot of cartoons growing up, but we were that generation that started the Saturday morning cartoons and the before school cartoons and the after school cartoons.
And I appreciate you for that.
Oh, hey, you are quite welcome. It was the baby boomers that made it for us, but whatever. They made it for us. They made it for us. No,
and I got the tail end of it.
You got the Darkwing Duck and all that other stuff out of that.
Yeah, see?
I'm sorry we left you Pokemon as well, but I know you guys loved it.
Hey, my son is, trust me, he likes the OG. It's not good. My son came in and goes, Pokemon?
My son wanted to be a big Pokemon fan when it first came out, and I have had so many. I don't like horror movies, so I never liked anime because of Akira and Ghost in the Shell and stuff like that. They weren't horror movies, but they were just creepy.
There's some ultra violence in them, but there's some stuff that. Yes, this is Pokemon, Peter.
Yeah, when Pokemon came out, I was like, "No, son, you're not watching that." But one of my favorite shows growing up, and one that you, Steve, and I both had many toys of, was He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Ah.
Now, most recently, Kevin Smith has made a continuation of our Masters of the Universe from the 80s. This is some of the artwork from it here.
Yep, on Netflix, right? Just came out a few days ago, right?
Yeah, yesterday or the day before. And great cast in this. We got Chris Wood, I believe his name is, which is he's the husband of Melissa Benoist, who plays Supergirl on the CW show Supergirl. He played Mon-El on the show, her husband. Skeletor is none other than Luke Skywalker himself.
Mark Hamill. I love it. I gotta watch the show now.
Tila, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar. Evil Lynn, played by Lena Headey from Game of Thrones, Cersei. So now, Steve, I watch this show, and I am seeing a lot of people online complaining, saying that this is a woke show, that Kevin Smith is placating to the woke nation. There is nothing woke on this show at all. Like, people are looking for shit to be angry at because, okay, one, Kevin Smith gave us this show that we love. It's a continuation of
this.
What's that?
The Tipper Gore that said all this.
It was Tipper Gore, and it was also I forgot her name because I'm not American, but the other conservative that's in trouble all the time. Marjorie Taylor Greene or whatever her name is. I don't know. Anyways, I'm not American. No. But, a lot of people are hating on it, saying it's just placating.
I've seen some hate online for this. I haven't watched it yet myself. I'm definitely going to check it out. But,
dude, there's no moment where you're like, oh, they put that in to placate to this or placate. Henry fucking Rollins is in this show. Henry Rollins, like the king of punk. Well, maybe to a lot of us, he's the king of punk, right? I mean, this show is our show, but they up the stakes. There's blood. There's no spoilers, but the very first episode, there's a death. There may be multiple deaths actually in the first episode, which we never saw in the entire history of He-Man. So
I love the Robot Chicken parody where Skeletor accidentally really kills He-Man. He's like, oh my god, what did I do?
And all the stuff they do, he's wielding a battle sword and his biceps are bigger than a cow. How has he not killed someone? Like, I didn't watch too much He-Man growing up. I was more of a Thundercats fan. Had him on VHS that I like the first season, watched him over and over, like Mumra and stuff. Terrified me. And for me, looking at it, it's like it's super hyper everything. Like everyone is super far. Look at He-Man's head compared to his biceps. Right. Like even Skeletor is a skeleton and he's ripped. Like how does that? He's just on a skeleton head. It's like for me, like if making a woman not a damsel in distress is like pandering, I feel like that's a little silly.
Okay,
because it just makes the women better. Because look, strong men love strong women, and if you don't like strong women, you're probably not a strong man. Because why would you want to see it ups the stakes, it ups everyone's. It just makes everything better to have strong men and strong women. Because then because the sexiest thing possible about anyone is just being a badass. So it's like, why would I not want women to be sexy badasses?
People are complaining about Tila and Evelyn being too badass in the show, basically. And I'm like, and my whole comment was that I did a TikTok video about it, and I'm like, my whole comment is this: if you have a problem with that, and if you think that this is too woke, you didn't watch the original He-Man.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's always been a thing.
At the end of every episode of He-Man, they gave you some kind of woke message. Don't play with fire. Don't treat others badly. Treat others as equals. I knew how to make glass when I was in like grade 4, just because of an episode of He-Man where it's like, I took the friction, remember that? And took the sand and friction made glass. And I remember blowing like my grade 4 teacher's mind that I knew how to make glass.
That was literally G.I. Joe's whole thing, was like educate. G.I. Joe's the most masculine alpha, like, soldiers, hoorah! And kids, if someone's in danger, be sure to call an adult, check before you walk across the street, and have a wonderful day and celebrate our differences. And it's like, that's always been a thing. Them continuing to do that is not new.
What's going to happen? The next G.I. Joe movie, they're going to make Scarlet, they're going to make, what was her name? Lady Scarlet, and there was the other girl. There was the two main girls, and then there was Echo, who couldn't see. Remember, she was the blind ninja. Or she wasn't the blind ninja. She would cover her eyes, and she'd fight blind. They're going to make them and make them tough as fuck, and guys are going to be like, oh, see this? Pandering to the world nation.
I know, right? Making a show about women. That's like...
They always have been.
Man, I remember when I got on the opposite end of that for the first time when Captain Marvel came out, and I'm like a big Captain Marvel comic book fan. And I remember going to the store, and there was no merchandise for men for Captain Marvel. And I was like, this is messed up. I was like, what about me? Like, why do I, like, I had to get like a double extra large women's jacket just to like wear some Captain Marvel. Like, this is messed up. This isn't right. And I sat and I went, oh, this is how women feel when guys, I get it. Like, there's no merch. It's just only women. I was like, oh, I get it. This is full circle.
Now, my only full circle thing I would like us to get to, and I don't even want to see it changed. I understand we've objectified women so much when it comes to comics and to cartoons. But please, ladies, please acknowledge it hasn't been a one-way street.
No. I mean, you can look at wrestlers. That's the perfect example, too. It's like they objectify women. Well, I mean, the men's are... I remember my mom used to come in when I was watching wrestling to get me to stop watching. Oh, look at their booties. Look, oh, he's got something in his Speedos, doesn't he? I'm like, Mom, they're fighting for the custody of Rey Mysterio's child. And she's like, yeah, but he's sexy. Look at his booty. And then, like, pull down the... Ooh, you saw a little butt crack. I'm like, this is a serious issue.
My mom would say similar things about Brutus the Barber when I was a kid. So
it's all like, I mean, Vince McMahon's little like, you're under 6'2"? Get out of here, shorty McLoser.
Yeah. Not anymore, thankfully. Well, hey.
Yeah.
We're all got problems here.
You said Sarah Michelle Gellar was the voice in this?
Yeah. But
well, speaking of Sarah Michelle Gellar, that's
don't skip your next story. Don't skip your next story. That's not your next story.
Oh, it's not.
Your next story goes from the big man He-Man into another big man. And speaking of wrestling,
ooh, is it the Chris Benoit was murdered?
Yeah. My bad. Kevin Nash has made it known that he wants to play Herman Munster in the new Rob Zombie Munster movie. Reports have said that Jeff Daniel Phillips and Sherry Moon will be in starring roles in this movie, but we don't know in quite what capacity. I mean, we can't help but think that Sherry Moon is obviously going to be in the lead, often in Rob Zombie's movies. But yeah, what do you think about Kevin Nash playing Herman Munster?
So I like the idea of Kevin Nash playing Herman Munster for a couple reasons. We've seen Kevin Nash now. I've seen Kevin Nash now, and I think 5 different movies where he's been decent. One was the Thomas Jane movie, The Punisher, where he plays the Russian.
Yep.
Remember,
forget that.
He doesn't talk. He just beats the shit out of Thomas Jane. 2 was in John Wick #1, where he's the guard at the club right before John Wick goes in, and he's like, hello, Mr. Wick. And John's like, I think you should take the night off. And he's like, thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Wick. Yeah.
And then I just seen him in another movie. I can't remember what it was.
He was in. I know which movie that you definitely. Magic Mike.
No.
He was in Magic Mike.
Oh, well,
you did.
I haven't seen that.
Oh,
But
well, he's in there. Me neither. I definitely didn't see it in theaters with my girlfriend and my mom, and they definitely didn't make it uncomfortable.
Lies. It was a double feature night. You guys watched Brokeback Mountain after. And it's okay. No, he actually played a gay father in the movie, and I think it was. I can't remember what the movie was. I reviewed it for our show, but yeah, he played somebody's gay dad who had just come out of the closet, and he did a great job. So
I think he can do it.
Yeah,
it's just like, look, he's got the looks. He's a decent enough actor, and look, it doesn't matter who you are. With a good enough director, he'll get out what he needs from Kevin Nash. So exactly. I have faith in it. I like the Munsters. I think he's long past dead. The guy who was the original.
Oh yeah,
he's
the guy from Pet Cemetery, wasn't he?
Yeah, same guy, Pet Cemetery.
And from the Metallica video,
Yes,
same actor, I believe.
Yeah, so I think he would approve of this. He was a nice guy. He'd be like, sure. You know, I like the Munsters, and I mean, if people are going to be complaining about woke stuff, then I could be happy with the Munsters. That whole series is just about like, hey, we're just going to allude to sexism and racism constantly, and how it's a bad thing.
I hope that they bring on Butch Patrick at least for something, who played Eddie Munster in the original, and I'm not just saying that because I hosted his panel. Keep pop to myself, I know. You know, but we knew Kevin Nash as Big Daddy Cool Diesel, who was the bodyguard or the guardian, if you will, of HBK back in the Attitude Era. But speaking of guardians, the Cleveland Indians.
Oh, yes.
Have recently changed their name following the suit of the Washington football team, who have, I think, decided just to stay with the Washington football team.
Yeah, they won't get an announcement until 2022.
Okay.
So.
Well, the Cleveland Indians have changed their names from the Indians to the Guardians after a bridge that overlooks the stadium.
Right.
That logo, I mean, are they trying to tell everybody that they're throwing knuckleballs every game? Like, that is the knuckleball grip.
I feel like the logo could be a little better. I feel like it could be a little better. Definitely.
Even a name. Like, in the 1880s, in the National League, Baseball League, Cleveland was called the Spiders. I mean, are you really missing out on that? I mean, the marketing alone of being called the Spiders over the Guardians. I mean,
have a janky Spider-Man, look-alike. Invite Tom Holland. Like, we're just having Tom Holland here. Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. We just like them. Totally.
It's funny you say that because after Cleveland changed their name, James Gunn came out and said that he would do some type of crossover with them for the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Dude, yes, I would.
So I'm down that way.
I love James Gunn, man. Everything that man is.
Yeah. What do you think, Steve, of the name? Like, you're a big sports fan like me too.
Yeah, I mean, it has relevance to the city, so I get that part of it. I still think they probably could have came up with something stronger, and had they not, maybe just a stronger logo. But
yeah, here's my question. I'm all for them changing the name from the Indians, especially seeing so Native Americans aren't Indians, like they're indigenous, and Indians are from India. But what I would have liked to have seen is for them to have changed the name and named them like the Seminoles or something that still was named after indigenous people, but not offensive. Like,
well, the owner, he doesn't like that stuff, right? Like he's been open that he doesn't care.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that there was a whole thing, and he's like, I'm not changing the name until the day I die. Like, and then it was one of the. I remember this was listening to an NPR thing about it. This was probably like 2 years ago, where he's like, yeah, I don't really see the point in it because they brought indigenous people. They're like, yeah, the Redskins announced like, oh, we're gonna or Indians, we're gonna start doing donating to indigenous people.
Yeah.
And they're like, good, you haven't been doing it before, but hey, there's I guess start.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm thinking of a different team, but yeah, it's I think long overdue.
Yeah,
is what I would say.
Here's a strange thing. So my uncle George Latham, my late uncle, first generation Mohawk Delhi, I believe. He married my mom's sister. His favorite teams were the Washington Redskins, the Cleveland Indians, the Chicago Blackhawks. Anything that was based on Native American, and he had often referred to himself as Indian as well. And
yes, that is I think it's one of those things.
That's not all of them though. He was just one who felt that way, and a lot of others didn't. So
no, it's one of those things of like, I think it's, for me, it's like there's like the 3 steps of it, like be seen, and then be heard, and then be accurate. So it's like, if there's any, like for me, it's like, I want a Latino in a film. That's my biggest complaint about the MCU Marvel right now, is just put a Latino. There's one Latino, he's the sidekick, he's a bumbling ex-convict. Do better, please.
Yeah.
Come on. So be seen a little more, and we're getting more Latino characters. We're gonna get Falcon, we're gonna get Moon Knight, we're gonna get Miss America.
It's gonna be big.
Yeah, we're gonna get characters, and it's like, that's great. Be seen, and then be accurate. Okay, so like, maybe the Latinos don't always have to talk in accents. They don't always have to be speaking Spanish. They don't always have to be, it's like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had Robbie Reyes, which, granted, accurate to his character. He was from the hood. He was from East LA, So it's like, I get it. Now so be seen, be heard, and then finally let's be accurate. So for me, it's like, look, get a Latino out there. I don't even care if it's racist, right? Like, because I just want to be seen. And then once you have it, then we can be, and I think that's probably his mentality. Was like, look, I'm not going to see myself anywhere else. So, that's at least bad representation is still representation. So I'll take it.
I hear you there. That was me in the 90s with every single black movie that came out. Because every black movie was Boys in the Hood ripoff. So everyone that I grew up with, aside from Steve, basically, and not everyone, but a lot of people I grew up with, they'd be like, so why you guys like gangbang and do this? Or why? And I'm like, I grew up in like Niagara, Ontario with you. Well, there's like 2,500 people in the city, and they all look like you. Like that.
What is it? Drinking juice in the hood.
What's that?
The one movie, the spoof movie, like Drinking Gin and Juice in the Hood.
Yeah.
Like the first scary movie before scary movie. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's like.
Society.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, for me, it's like, I just, it's like Latino stuff. It's the same way. It's like, oh, like they made a La Llorona movie, but it's a white couple.
In this area, but it was different kinds of gangs. It was bike gangs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of we had the Hells Angels here for a long time,
which is a very dangerous game. Probably one of the most dangerous.
Absolutely not. I think they can be, but I honestly believe, growing up in a biker town, I honestly believe when the bikers were in charge, like when we had bikers here a lot, and we had a lot of Italian mafia here as well, this town ran so beautiful. Like, it was a beautiful city. It was safe. You never saw any of that stuff that you see in the movies or anything like that. Because everyone was just too afraid to fuck up, really.
It's one of those things of like, look, if you're trying to get away with a drug trade, you want to make sure it doesn't look like a drug trade. Give back to the community. It's one of those. It's like the Yakuza in Japan. They give back. They help charities. They help orphanages.
And obviously, it's a sign of the times with the harder drugs and opiates and stuff like there now. But I mean, they kept a lot of that crap out of this town.
Yeah, exactly. They kept the hard drugs out. Yeah. Now, Steve, you mentioned it earlier. You alluded to it. We talked a little bit about Sarah Michelle Gellar and a movie that she'd been in before, and something
I'll help you.
coming in the works here.
Movie that we all know, starring Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jennifer Love Hewitt. Still Know What You Did Last Summer. We're doing a TV show, Amazon Prime, and it's going to be about a bunch of teens who accidentally kill a friend during a 4th of July prank. And
is it their parent that's the murderer? Is that going to be the twist?
Yeah. I mean, okay. I mean, and this is Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah, that'll be on October 21st on Amazon Prime.
The one thing I'll give Amazon Prime is if you're a fan of gore and a fan of like really high intense violent shows like Steve, if you like Blumhouse and things like that, Amazon Prime's that's your huckleberry right there. And if this is what you're looking for this movie, if you're looking for a torture porn type TV series, I have all faith that this is going to be that way. I'm not one of those guys. I actually watched all these movies. I don't consider these horrors or slashers or thrillers. They're kind of popcorn horror.
Well, I mean, like it runs in a really strange thing because there is like on-screen murder, but
Right.
but it's like comparatively, I guess. Like if you compare like I Know What You Did Last Summer to something like the Friday the Friday the 13th movies, Nightmare on Elm Street movies, those are like that's a slasher film.
Yeah.
I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's like, oh, like she gets stabbed and she's walking, and then like it's like, or it's even Scream. I mean, they hang Drew Barrymore up in the opening scene with a rib kit. Like that's gory. That's a
was good.
slasher.
Yeah.
I Know What You Did This Summer was a little more tame.
Yeah,
Fair.
I agree.
PB1 private messaged me one to watch, Steve. A good one was thinking was Great White 2021. I have no idea what that is, but yeah. Steve will check it out because Steve loves the horror. So we
Horror.
go
Horror.
horror. Well, either or, I'm sure he's fine with.
His wife's like, what'd she say?
Yeah. So we spoke a little bit earlier about I Know What You Did Last Summer coming out with a new series, another new series coming, and I don't have it here. I believe it is coming to Paramount Plus, though. They are making a live action version of the 1980s cartoon Dungeons and Dragons, and it is being brought to you by, in my opinion, the fantastic creator of the TV sci-fi show Eureka, one of my absolute favorites. It's a guilty pleasure. It kills me. Like, look at this cast here. Like, great cast. It kills me that the main character has not done anything aside become the new Maytag.
He was a good actor in that.
And he's the new Maytag man in those commercials for the Maytag.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh,
it's
how
sad.
the mighty have fallen.
Right. I'm down for this. I won't say I loved the cartoon when we were kids, but I did watch it. It was that one. We didn't have that many on, but I think it was on before Punky Brewster's cartoon. And I would watch it every Saturday. So I'm interested to see how this turns out. And this was a multicultural show back in the early 80s. Look at that cast right there. Like, I mean,
only two of them are blonde.
Only two of them are blonde. We've got a ginger. We've got a nerd. Of course, it's Dungeons and Dragons. We've got a black lady. And I'm pretty sure the other dude was Hispanic. Or actually, I think he was maybe Greek. I don't remember. But yeah, I'm all up for this. I'm loving the nostalgia that's coming out right now. Obviously, you can see Gen X is we are kind of running things in Hollywood right now at least for a lot of the movies as the millennials are starting to take our place. But this is what happens. We get these reboots and remakes of stuff that we grew up on.
Well, my millennials will get there eventually. We'll get there in 10 years.
Listen, I'm waiting for the Impossible live action movie that's coming.
That's already happened. That's already
I'm waiting for the good one.
I don't think we'll ever get it.
I want to see an actual naked mole rat that dances and talks. No.
Yeah, I was really hyped for this the D&D thing. My one worry is that get people who play Dungeons and Dragons to write this, because I was watching ET earlier. I showed my son ET for the first time, and I was like, "Oh, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons." I totally forgot this, and then he's like, "Well, you rolled a 6," and I was like, "That's accurate." He's like, "You lose 10 mana points." I was like, "Ah, shit, there you go. You're just so close to being so right, and then you just what 10 mana points? What are you doing?"
Steve, when was the last time you played D&D?
I used to play. The last time I probably played, there was a store called Games a Lot in the Seaway Mall. Back
I remember.
And we actually used to have a Saturday game in the back room.
Oh, no shit. So that would have been what, the 2000s?
Yeah, 20, 21, 22, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably haven't played since high school, honestly. The last
my son,
when we played with Barney and that, and we used to play all the time. That was our.
My son is in a weekly game with his friends.
Yeah, we were a weird generation that played sports. We fought. We drank. We did drugs. we
Mine's the esports generation.
Books. We did everything that all those different cultures that don't get along.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a Gen X thing or just our area thing.
And that came out in the music we made in the 90s, combining rock and rap.
Anthrax,
Park.
Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, we talk about it. Stranger Times have happened and Stranger Things have happened, which I think is a fine segue.
Series creator Ross Duffer has said that Stranger Things will continue past season 4 and beyond.
Now, this is good that the creator's saying that, but we're talking about Netflix.
Right.
Let me know when Netflix says that.
Right.
When Netflix says they're going to continue it, I believe them. But at this point, it's like Lucifer saying, oh, we're going to do 5 more seasons.
Yeah.
I'll believe it when I see it.
That's fair enough. Yeah. I mean, the fact that they're getting a season 4 is good. That's a good step. But yeah, Netflix does, because that's all contractual obligation stuff where they're like, hey, we reassign contracts every 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of things die on the 4th season, where they usually don't get to the 4th season. And if they get to 6 seasons, they usually die or don't get to season 7. So it's like, I understand it from a film point of view, because when you're those actors, you're like, oh, season 3, give us, we renegotiate our contracts. And you know what? I'm actually an A-list actor now, so more money. And Netflix is like, oh, we don't want to pay you that. And they're like, well, cough it up. So I leave.
That's why Netflix series dies, as opposed to CBS or NBC or other network shows. Where
Disney does that too, though. Disney does that too. Unfortunately, it's Andy Mack was like the most popular show they've ever done. I even watched it as an adult. I was like, this is actually like real life shit. Yeah, and they were talking about real life stuff, and they're like, yeah, it's the most popular show we've ever had in Disney Channel's history. It got to season 3, and they went, we're not renewing for season 4. And I'm like,
have either of you seen the new Turner and Hooch yet?
I watched the first
I've
episode.
not.
I did.
It's a show?
Yeah. What did you think? Yeah, Josh Peck. Josh Peck from Drake and Josh is playing
Tom Hanks' son.
Yes! Oh my God.
Really?
I had no idea that he would be playing Tom Hanks' son. I thought it would be a remake, and I didn't even think it would be the same name. I didn't think it would, like oh my God. But yeah.
Is Colin Hanks in there too? I would love
God. That would have been really cool if Colin Hanks was in it, but he's not in it.
I'd still see it. That sounds cool. I mean, we don't talk about Drake right now because he's doing stuff, but
yeah. You know what though? I don't care what anybody says, and I grew up with the 1980s Spider-Man, like the animated series that everybody loved with Madam Web and all that.
Oh, agreed.
Ultimate Spider-Man, Drake Bell is the best Spider-Man in comics, in movies, in anything. The Ultimate Spider-Man, that series to me was the absolute best. I love Drake Bell just for that. I
would say he's good, but in my opinion, Yuri Lowenthal, the guy who the Spider-Man in the PS4 Sony game for like 2018, 2019.
Okay.
Yuri Lowenthal, to me, he's the perfect Spider-Man. He nailed it.
That game was dope.
I wasn't
thinking of that medium at all.
Yeah, for me, it's just like, because this is the quips too, everything throughout playing the game. Like, I was like, God, they really nailed like the serious humor, especially in the expansions when like Black Cat betrays him and she's like, why did you save me? I left you to die. And he's like, I do good things, like regardless. I'm Spider-Man. I'm like, if that's not the most dumbest, smartest.
That's why Zack Snyder gets Superman so wrong.
Agreed.
In my opinion, because Superman will always do the right thing. And the reason why he will always do the right thing is because the Kents will always do the right thing. And there's no way in the world Pa Kent would ever tell Superman to sacrifice a busload of children to protect his secret identity.
Should I let the kids die? Maybe.
I was like, what? That is not Pa Kent. I'm like, oh, we're in the Injustice universe. Oh, I get it now. We're either with the Justice Lords or in the Injustice universe. Zack Snyder, who hates Snyder and Alan Moore, are two people that should never have anything to do with superheroes because they hate them so much.
I mean, Rorschach was supposed to be a bad villain guy. He's like, yeah, everyone's supposed to hate Rorschach. They all love him.
Steve, not the comic book guy here, is like, what is happening right now?
It's like...
It is what it is. Speaking of comic books, and we spoke earlier about Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider.
Mm-hmm.
Norman Reedus, who has multiple times said that he'd love to play Ghost Rider, has once again came out and said that he would love to play the Spirit of Vengeance. Can I just say, why hasn't it already happened? I mean,
For
it's
my
the most obvious choice.
So like here's the thing about that. A lot of people don't know this, but there's like 12 ghostwriters.
Yeah.
And
Very
they're
funny place.
the thing. So like from my, I don't know how accurate or public knowledge or whatever, but I'm just going to tell you what I've been told. So Robbie Reyes was going to get his own show. People,
Yeah.
I don't know if people, he was going to get his own show on Hulu, but
Yeah.
Kevin Feige took over Marvel TV and said, "You're dead," and he killed Marvel TV right before they started filming the show. So they're like, "All right, none of that." And the current rumor is that they're doing a Midnight Suns movie. They're in the works, so it'll be Doctor Strange, Blade, Moon Knight, and Ghost Rider.
And possibly Werewolf by Night.
Yes, possibly. And
Right.
so they're saving Ghost Rider to be introduced in that. And there was rumors that he's going to make a brief appearance. Ghost Rider, not the actor, but I think the skull is going to make an appearance in Doctor Strange. And I think like Kevin Feige is trying to figure out right now where he wants to go and who he wants to cast. Because like going forward, he doesn't want to cast white guys anymore from the looks of things. And that's not a bad thing. It's more like diversity.
It is a bad thing, though.
Yes,
And the
exactly.
only
Yeah,
reason
it's
I
like
think about it is, I growing up half like with a white family in a white city, I do see the point that they make where
Stop
isn't it
villainizing
more
me.
critical
Yeah.
at a certain point where you just say we're not going to cast any white people because if you get to the tipping point and you're way over here, then you're like, oh, all we can cast is white people, and then we get into that same problem again.
Yeah, it's exactly. That's what I think that's the thing about, not to get on a too far tangent, but like Star Wars the sequel series, is that there wasn't a single good white guy, and I don't know whether subconsciously or consciously. Yeah, watch the movie. There's not a single white guy that's actually good, and all the bad guys are white guys, and like I don't know if that was intentional or subconscious or conscious, but I'm like. You could give them at least one good, like there's like a few side characters, like one of the pilots,
and
you know.
Like that is what's killing.
And it's like I think they went too far left. Like if you had like Huxley and that, like diversity is both full fledged, right? You want everyone to be good and everyone to be bad. You can't do the Marvel route where they're like, hey, white guys are bad guys and and we're gonna race swap it. It's like, well, you could do both. You know, it's like you can, and I think Eternals match that perfectly. Like they really have a diverse cast, and I was like, good, great, keep it up. And so I think that's my worry. And like I'm a super left-wing liberal guy, but even then I'm like, I think you guys sometimes go a little too far. You need to kind of bring it back. And I think that's their thing with Ghost Rider, because a lot of Ghost Riders are white dudes. You have Johnny Blaze, Dan Ketch, and there's a third one, I think that's the more recent white guy. And then you have, I think there's a Latina and there's a Latino. And they have this like, and there's this weird thing of like, oh, well, like, who do we cast? Like, yes, we want Norman Reedus because he's a talented actor and he knows bicycles. And there's that. There's rumors that Keanu Reeves also wants that role. And they've been wanting Keanu Reeves for like 6 years now. So if Keanu Reeves wants that role, he's going to get it over Norman Reedus. Yeah. And then it's like, and then it dives even further. It's like, okay, well, who do we cast then? Or do we do Johnny Blaze? Are we trying to do Danny Ketch? Like, where do we want both? Do we want multiple Ghost Riders?
Why don't you do multiple with Ghost Riders?
Agreed, 100%. Do Ghost Riders.
Do Robbie Reyes and Johnny Blaze, the two most
exactly. And if one of and for me, I'm like, look, that I'll take. Like I said, BC. So if that's where we got to start, and they Ghost Rider, I'm cool with it. I still want Robbie Reyes, and for me, I don't know if I were to be a betting man. I don't think they're going to cast him. I think they're going to cast Robbie Reyes. He's still in the Avengers in the comics. He's still a #1 dude in the comics.
And he's got a cool car.
Yeah, he's got a car. It's really cool. The character is cool. He's one of the only West Side American actual Avengers. Everyone else is from New York. He's from East Los Angeles. He's a Latino. He's a young dude. And everyone loved him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So the fact that he's still in the comic books and this, October, he's going to be one of the main characters in their new Latino thing. I'm like, if I was a betting man, I have a feeling they're gonna do a Robbie Reyes.
If they do and they don't use Cheech Marin's Born in East LA as one of the songs in the contract,
Lowrider,
they totally missed out. I'm just saying.
That's my thing. It's like a part of me is like I don't want Lowrider in the song. Like I don't want the song Lowrider.
No, as long as it's not Lowrider, and as long as
But I have an uncle who makes lowriders. He was featured on Speed Channel for doing lowriders and decaling them, and he's one of the best in the city.
Nice. Oh,
So
sweet.
it's like for me, I'm like, I get it. That's a real thing. Just like whatever. So
Steve, you got some sequel news for us. Possible sequel news.
A recent hit for Amazon Prime was Tomorrow War, and we now know that Tomorrow War 2 is in development, as producer David Goya has said.
Okay.
was that a good movie?
Was it? So Steve reviewed it, and the first week I kind of agreed with him that I didn't mind it. And then I watched it again.
I'm making you the white
And after watching it the second time, I was like, this movie's really bad on a lot of fronts. And well, if you're going to go in the past, if you're losing a war and you're going to go into the past, why are you taking soldiers from the past and bring them to the future? Why not go to the past and be like, yo, man, these aliens are coming. Like, here's some weapons from the future that we made. Improve on these so that you're ready. And why go back to that point? If you go back in the past, go back even farther in time and give them more time to prepare for this invasion.
I mean, yeah, you go like to the 1800s and get like, hey, here's space lasers and guns.
What?
By the way, don't trust Germany in the 1900s.
Yeah, even if you
Like-
go to 2000 and just be like, here, man, these aliens are coming to get us. Here's the weapons we're using to fight them. Improve on them. This is the spots they're going to hit. I mean, it just seems so short-sighted. And
I didn't know it was good.
I was so stoned, I didn't clue into it. The second time, I was like, what?
I didn't know it was good enough to warrant a sequel, though. I feel like no one I knew watched it, and the people that did watch it hated it. So I'm like, who watched it enough to make it a sequel? Did you like it? Were you like
I didn't
repeating
think
it?
I didn't think it was terrible.
This is
I feel like it's like an I Am Legend movie.
Reply to a conspiracy theory that he liked. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't think it was terrible.
It was great.
It's a really metaphysical take on the current state of capitalism.
Basically. Yeah, I mean, whatever. It was the #1 trending movie on Amazon Prime, and I believe among all the streaming services when we did the research last week on it. So I get them making a sequel for it. I don't know if I'll be watching it. I don't know. There is another sequel. I don't even know if it's a sequel. It's within the same universe, but a new anime coming out, Blade Runner, Blackout, or Black Locust, if you will, depending where you're watching it. This is set to come out 2022, a new anime.
Is it slightly weird that the main character is black and it's called Blackout?
Yeah, right?
It's a little weird.
No.
Probably it's coincidental.
Go there.
Maybe.
I'm going to be that guy that says, so I didn't watch the original Blade Runner until last year. Because
Really?
another show that I did, I had to review 2049. So I watched both of them in succession. Am I wrong in saying those are really overhyped movies?
You could take that first.
To me, they were. Like, I mean, I definitely enjoy 2049 better because I'm one who loves acting. And I think the acting was exceptional in 2049. Blade Runner, the original, the acting's... Harrison Ford's not as good as everyone thinks Harrison Ford is. Harrison's good when he's playing Get Off My Plane or Angry Old Man or Forgetting Henry. He was great, you know, and you know, the One-Armed Man, you know. I didn't kill my wife. I don't care. There he's good in Han Solo, but some movies he phones it in, and I kind of felt that Blade Runner, the original, was one of those movies. And I didn't get it. Rutger Hauer was fantastic, but the movie was slow.
Which version did you see? Because then we got to get in the discussion of that. There's like 4 different versions of it.
So I watched the Ridley Scott
Director's cut. Did you watch the unrated director's cut?
Oh, I don't know. I just
see there's legitimately like 4 different versions of it. That like was there a narration in the beginning?
Isn't that a problem right there in itself?
Yes.
That you have to release 4 different versions of it to get to a good one that you like. My whole same thing with Zack Snyder. Like, oh, we need the Snyder cut. I'm like, do we?
They remade that movie. It's not even the Snyder cut. That's not the movie we would have got had he finished his movie. That's
exactly.
not. He's got hindsight, and that's. But as for Blade, for me, it's like, I think it was like, it's one of those things of at the time. It was really revolutionary.
Yes.
Because you had this like really practical effects. Because like nowadays we look at practical effects and you kind of have to like sit there and be like, oh, practical effects, I appreciate that, you know? Like, and so for a lot of that movie, it's like, wow, this is visually stunning for the time because we didn't really see that much art and passion in like, especially sci-fi movies.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us to get like and it was sort of considered action, I guess. So it's like, for me, it's like when I was little watching that and when I grew into teenager and adult, it's like, for me, it's like I looked at that movie and I'm like, this has a lot to say and there's a lot to be said. And especially when you read the book, it makes it more kind of aware. Having said that, you shouldn't have to read the book. You shouldn't have to, rewatch something. So it's like, that's, it's like, well, if you read the book, no, you shouldn't have to. A book should make something better, not make it tolerable. So
understandable.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's like, look, book aside, everything aside, I think it was visually good. It was a slow movie, and I think it was really trying to be this noir. Do you like noir movies?
So,
like detective.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they were going for, and it's like, for me, it's like, but even then, you're right. Like, think about it. It really is a slow movie to finally get to, because the message is like,
and then Harrison Ford rapes the robot. He rapes Sean Young. I'm sorry, he raped Sean Young.
Yeah,
he rapes her.
You know what?
People are going to complain about Pepe Le Pew, who never follows through on anything, and I'm not excusing.
Not that he hasn't tried, though. Not that Pepe hasn't tried.
I'm not excusing his behavior, but I am saying at a certain point, Pepe Le Pew takes no as no, whereas Harrison Ford in Blade Runner did not take no for an answer from a fucking robot. And if a robot's telling you no, you're creepy.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I think it was trying to like talk about like existentialism and stuff, and I think that's the whole point of it. Nowadays, because we get a lot of that, even in like kid shows, it's like, oh, do androids dream of, it's like Blade Runner. Also, the name doesn't. I don't know why they changed it. Regardless, I think it's a good movie, but it definitely, looking back, it was slow. It's like a Stephen King novel. It's good. But man, it's slow.
Steve, what about you? Were you a Blade Runner fan? Did you watch any of those?
I agree with our guest. It was definitely slow, but I did like it to some extent. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like it, but I definitely prefer it.
And so
Blind Fury.
Oh yeah,
Blind Fury.
The rain scene at the end with the hand on the nail and everything. Like, for me, it's like, I don't remember that movie as a movie. I remember it as like still shots and like bits from it. Yeah. So it's
that
it's
makes
like
sense. Well, and we talk like Rutger Hauer is a favorite character. We talk about some of, like, Steve, one of your favorite fandoms is Star Wars. How's it going, buddy? Now, now talking about Star Wars, there's something cool coming out.
Yeah, Regal Robot has announced that they're coming out with a very limited edition of Salacious B. Crumb, of course, Jabba the Hutt's sidekick. There's 150 available, and you can pick it up for the very, very low price of $3,999.
Jesus, but it's like an actual size figure. It's like an
life size. I'm gonna say, even if I'm Jeff Bezos rich, and I am your level of Star Wars geekdom, I am not paying for that thing.
If it was like an animatronic and moved, or like it was also a puppet, I'd be like, sure, but
yeah, maybe then.
I don't like Salacious that much. I don't think anyone should like Salacious that much. It's a little weird.
Like, when I had that toy that came with the Jabba the Hutt and the pit where it actually dropped, I would torture that toy. That was my toy that took meetings. Or he would be my gremlin when I didn't have my Gremlins toys.
They have like a little like $60 puppet too of Salacious that you could just. Yeah.
No, I'm good. I'm so good. Now, speaking of Star Wars, The Mandalorian released a new poster, and this has got a lot of people talking.
Yeah.
See Luke here with Grogu, and they're making a lightsaber with a yellow kyber crystal.
So was that officially released? Because I saw someone or something post that, and I was like, was that officially?
Well, what we
done?
saw on it, I mean, so officially according to comicbook.com, and I think they do a pretty good job. Maybe not when they first
Usually
started, but right now they're a really trusted news source, and they announced it as real. So we're going with it. And if this is the case, I'm down with this. Grogu's what, 50? They said 50 years old at this point?
56 or so. Yeah, 56. And it was like, I think this is for like Comic-Con or something, right?
Yes.
My only concern is that this is why I'm hesitant about it, is because I don't think Disney's going to Comic-Con this year. Is why I'm
Marvel's
a little
not
bit.
going. Marvel's not going. I don't know if Disney's not. I know for sure Marvel's not going because they made a big deal about this being like the third year in a row or something like that Marvel hasn't gone.
Well, yeah, because they have D23 this November, I think. And I'm like, at this point, it's cheaper and better for Disney to just be like, yeah, because it didn't go I think most of the stuff didn't go last year, so.
Do we think Grogu survives? Here's a question I'm going to put to the two of you.
Yes.
Right now. Give me my iPad. No, right now. Give me my iPad.
You think he does too?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess so too. Like, why would they kill their cash cow? But I mean, like,
Give me
you don't think that he was one of the victims of Kylo Ren?
Mhm.
Right.
Because he would have been one of Luke's
That's
or
sure.
by that point, is he one of Luke's teachers? Like one of the ones that works in Luke's like a faculty member.
You know, I think that what's the ages that like. You okay, dude? Sorry, my son tried to come in, like. He wants to show you Baby Shark. There you go, Peter.
Oh,
I don't want to get dismonetized, Pete.
Baby Shark. I use Baby Shark to get my teenage stuff.
Well, we have our own version of Baby Shark.
Yeah, see, exactly. But no, I think Kylo or Ben Solo, I guess, would be like 3 years old during The Mandalorian.
Right.
And like, I can totally see this show because I think the rumors were is that the show's gonna eventually, with a few time skips, lead up to the sequels. And in which case, like, that wouldn't be hard to make Pedro Pascal look like he's 60. Because right now I think he's like 30. He's supposed to be 30 years old in the show, and so it's like age him up 20 years. That's fine. He's gonna be in the helmet. You could age him up and never show his face because that's the way to make.
We don't know real. Like, have they said what planet he's from? Like, what species he really is? Because he's not Mandalorian by birth. No. He was adopted.
I think he's just like Corellian human. I think, or
right. So do Corellians just age the same as we do, or do they?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah. But regardless, I mean, it's right now. Ben is 3 years old. Rey is like 6 years from even being born, which means that if Rey's 6 years off being born, there's definitely a clone of Palpatine out there somewhere that's young.
Right.
And if this show is, yeah.
And we got the Obi-Wan news too, right? Didn't they have more casting news this week on Obi-Wan Kenobi? And I forgot to include it, and I forget who it was offhand, but I know that they added somebody else to the cast that was a big member. A little girl got cast to play, rumored to play a young version of Princess Leia. That's correct. You are right. Yeah. So a young Leia will be in there. And so the big question is, will we see a young Luke Skywalker? And my answer is, why would you think we wouldn't?
Yeah, he definitely gonna, yeah.
Whole purpose on that planet is to watch over Luke Skywalker. So how could he not be watching a young Luke at that point?
Agreed. And for me, it's like, I'm very excited for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. It's just like, it's going to be so good. The action scenes, Vader's going to be Hayden, it's just like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Darth Maul, Sam Witwer as voicing Darth Maul, I think, and Ray Park reprising.
Well, because and I think too is that I mean, I don't know if I don't care. So, oh, sorry. Here.
No, all good.
So I had a friend who worked for Kathleen Kennedy, and from my understanding, he I probably won't get in trouble for this. So about 6 or so years ago, he was like, "Oh my God, Ewan McGregor's in the office right now to talk about an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie." And then he left, and he's like, "Hey, he didn't seem like the meeting went well."
Okay.
And so I'm like, if that's true, if the meeting didn't go well, and he didn't like the movie or script they had, and to me, it's like, in a perfect world, that means the actor cares about the character.
Yeah.
And if he's like, "Look, I don't think this is the right move for me. If you can do it, I'll come back to it." And the fact that he really likes playing Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he's like, "Yeah, TV show. I have a feeling that I have faith in this." Like they pulled the Mandalorian writer-director off of it so she can do this. So I have a feeling that like we're gonna get something good, if for no other reason than like we could have had an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie before probably, and it was probably Ewan McGregor that was like, "No, I'm good."
No.
So
I think he's very similar to Tom Hiddleston with Loki.
yeah, exactly. That
He's
Tom
like,
Hiddleston's producer on Loki.
Yeah, he's like, "I'll play it forever. I will play this character forever." Now, talking about someone who's been playing forever, let's switch up the music a bit here. Steve, you got a story for us for a legend.
Yeah, old slow hand, known as Eric Clapton otherwise, has said that in response to British Prime Minister Boris Johnson saying that he wants a vaccine passport required to attend concerts in the UK, Eric Clapton's responded and said that he will not play any venue that discriminates against the non-vaccinated.
Oh, wow. I mean,
That's interesting.
yes. I mean, all right.
That's a weird hill to die on.
Weird flex.
Yeah, that's a weird like.
It reminds me of the Vikings assistant coach right now. The assistant escaping me, who just got fired. Rick Dennison from the Minnesota Vikings. I'm a diehard Vikings fan, have been since I've been 8 years old. Who was fired for refusing to take the vaccine. It is not mandatory for players, but it is mandatory for all coaching staff and all other staff there. I mean,
a weird hill to die on.
Coach, you want to become a head coach at some point, right? Is this the hill you want to die on? I mean, I know you haven't got the vaccine yet, and you've never said that you don't want to get it. You just said you're holding up on it. I waited a bit to get my first shot. Totally get that. Is this a hill you would die on where you give up your fucking dream over this?
Yeah.
Especially over the, like, I mean, you look at polio, like, I can't tell you how many times
flu vaccines are mandated, so it I can see. My wife's a nurse, so for me, it's like I kind of understand. It's like we get flu vaccinations, we get, for me, and like if someone's like, "Hey, you're getting paid a lot of money to do your job. We got a stick in the arm, so we maybe don't infect anyone else," and they're like, "Nah, fire me."
And the NFL has said this year that they're going to do very little to try and reschedule games. They will if they can, but if not, the team, the infected COVID team will be forced to forfeit.
Yeah, and I'm almost okay with this rule.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players that are contemplating retirement right now because of this. I mean, I don't know. We talked about it in the conspiracy theories earlier. Do you really think the government has that much fucking money to put that many microchips in just one vial so that they could possibly get it into the syringe to get it into your arm and then waste all the rest of those microchips? No government in the world has that money. Abu Dhabi, maybe. But aside from Abu Dhabi, I mean, it's not happening. Now, that brings me to our next story. And one of our last, we got a couple stories to go here.
Okay.
CW, you and I never really watched any of the. I watched the superhero shows, but we don't watch Riverdale. Even though we both grew up with Archie, and we don't watch Netflix's Sabrina. But we know that in the comic books, they're both a shared world. Did you know that Sabrina just got canceled last year in their 4th season?
I didn't.
Well, they did off Netflix. That's what Netflix does. Cancel popular shows.
Yes.
The showrunner said that in the next season, they were going to actually have the crossover that fans were asking for, and that would have been a Riverdale and Sabrina crossover. I mean, they've done it all anyways. They've had Josie and the Pussycats on there. and everything else from that kind of Hanna-Barbera and that comic era. I would say it would have been cool for fans. Like I said, I didn't watch the show, so it's hard for me to say. But yeah, I mean, for the geeks that are watching, how do you feel? I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I don't mean to be that jackass, that's for sure.
Okay.
Well, I think the comic books too. Oh, sorry.
Jackass Forever will be coming out September 3rd. We've got the trailer drop this week. And, of course, we've reported on this, that Bam Margera was in a breach of contract. He had all kinds of stipulations to try and keep him, clean and sober during the filming. He breached the contract, so he was let go. I don't know yet if any of the scenes that Bam had filmed will be used. But I do know that they have brought in guest stars to help fill the scenes that were not yet completed. One of the guest stars, I don't have his name in front of me, was actually attacked by a shark, like legit attacked by a shark.
And was that in the scene where they were going in the shark pen? Obviously.
Yeah. PETA has also spoke out against the movie. Multiple scenes in the trailer depict Jackass using animals. That's nothing strange for Jackass, getting bit by snakes and whatnot. PETA has asked that all scenes containing animals be removed from this movie.
Okay.
So I'm going to assume that Johnny Knoxville said, oh, sure, let's take that under advisement and just completely ignored it.
What are their thoughts about them using midgets and stuff? They're cool with that? They're cool with them using all those midgets and stuff?
Right.
Yeah. I feel like PETA should be ignored at all times.
The movie is called Jackass.
Yes. Let us talk about PETA and WWF in the same kind of vein, how they should be ignored. Because the WWF was offered $10 million by Vince McMahon back in the day when WWF was World Wrestling Federation to keep that moniker of WWF. And they turned down $10 million that they could have used to put towards animal care just so that they could keep WWF. I mean, at that point, you obviously don't care about the animals. At that point, you care about your ego more than anything else. That's my only thing I'm saying about that. Somebody that doesn't have any ego at all, at least I'm sure he does, but someone that I've never seen it out of, and I know, Steve, you've never seen it out of him either, and we've seen him. You've had your picture taken with him, and that's the great Kevin Smith. And Kevin Smith came out this week and let everyone know that Clerks 3 is underway. I am absolutely stoked for this. I loved Clerks 1. It started us off in the Ask You universe. Clerks 2 was hilarious as well. I mean, that end scene with the strip scene with the donkey was a little different, but I mean, I'm down for this, and I want to see the bow tie put on this and the bookend put at the end of this trilogy.
Speaking of bookends and trilogies, I have one question for Kevin Smith. Where is the third movie to the Great North trilogy? We need Moose Jaws. I need this movie.
Moose Jaws.
The premise of this movie, this is basically taking part in the Alberta wilderness, and it's basically Jaws with a moose.
Exactly, and it's in the same. It's not in the same SQ. Well, it is in the same SQ universe, but it's part of Tusk and Hosea. Yeah.
If you want to see that movie, it does exist. It's called Chaws, a Korean movie. If I'm not, could be Japanese, but there's a Korean movie called Chaws about a giant boar, and they filmed it, and it's a love letter to Jaws. It came out like a few years ago, and check it out because it's comedy, but it's still like we're just in a small village, and there's a giant, like superhuman-sized boar that kills everyone.
It sounds like the movie that I reviewed called Zombievers. Zombievers. So these were these beavers that were zombies that attacked a lot of skinny dipping women.
My favorite was
It
still
was not porn, I promise. At least
my
I don't think it
favorite
was.
is still Velocipaster.
Dude, they sent me another review for their newest movie. I'll send it to you. Now, speaking of movies and kind of, we talked about race a little bit. This is the last story we have of the day. HBO Max has been on their high horse lately about making a black Superman. I have been on record of saying that I am down for a Val Zod, a Calvin Ellis, black Superman. I am not down for a black Clark Kent. Why? There's already Val Zod and Calvin Ellis there.
And also him being white kind of is important to he's a white
Kansas.
son. He's a little Kansas farm boy. Like that's not really an experience anyone that's not a white guy tends to have.
Right. Like, I mean, it just would have added more pressure on him growing up as of just being an alien, now being a black alien.
Being a black guy in Kansas.
It goes back to, I forget there was a black comedian who said it, who talked about why James Bond could never be black. And the whole reason is he lives in a white continent and he does all his spy stuff in white places. So you can't exactly have a spy trying to get lost in the crowd and he'd be the only black guy there. You're like, oh, there he is. Oh, there he is. There he is again.
I never realized that, but that's fair. I mean, granted, I think
like there's Waldo.
Yes, there's Waldo.
Yeah, it's well, that's what they're doing for James Bond, though. They are making the next James Bond is going to be a black woman.
That's different. It's not a Bond movie, though. It is a 007 movie.
Yes.
And I am so okay with that because 007 is a moniker like the Dread Pirate Roberts. It is just a name that's passed on from person to person. No problem with that. I have no problem with a black person being Superman, a black person being Batman. I have a problem when they change Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent, or those.
Bruce Wayne needs to be white, though. That is very much that's like there's certain characters like Wally West. It could be anything. Barry Allen could be could be anything.
Yeah. Black guy growing up in Kansas equals Injustice Superman.
Yeah, probably.
No, it equals what was the movie that they made with the.
They did do that. They the Gods Among Us
or J.J. Abrams with his Superman movie. Where
that was James Gunn.
Evil.
James Gunn's.
Was it James Gunn? I think it was J.J.
With the evil Superman.
Yeah,
the little boy.
Yeah.
Brightburn. That was James Gunn.
Oh, okay, yeah. Good though.
They did do that though. A version of Superman where he's Latino and he's far less understanding. He landed in Mexico, and he crossed the border, so he has this like really hard immigration stance on himself, and he's like really, really ruthless.
I like it.
Yeah, so I was like, I think he would definitely change his personality depending on what ethnicity, what race, how he was grown up, how others view him. So it's like. Definitely.
Brightburn, exactly.
Yes, yeah, Brightburn.
So our last story is, HBO Max is doing this and flexing how it's going to be a black Clark Kent. And they've always been saying Michael B. Jordan. Well, Michael B. Jordan came out today and said that there is a black Superman series that he is producing, starring. I don't know if he's starring in it. I know he's in it, though.
Probably starring.
And yeah, I'm assuming he's starring in it. And it is definitely based on Val Zod's Superman, not on Clark Kent's. I am so down for this because if anyone's read the new 52 version of Earth 2, to me, who grew up with comic books, I love this version of Earth 2 with Val Zod and, of course, their version of Batman there. It's great. And this is the way to do it. I am so down for this. And when I say this is the way to do it, for me, this is the way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, like, the truth of the matter, and this is speaking totally candidly, if they make a Black Superman movie, I'm going to be there opening night.
Yeah.
Because I want to see it. And no matter my complaints or anything, at the end of the day, it's like, look, if it's a dumb decision or not, if the movie's good, I'm there for it. I love Superman. My wife hates Superman. But my nephew his middle name is Kal-El. My brother loves him. I love Superman. I think when Superman is done right, there's a reason he's the superhero, in my opinion. There is no superhero greater than him outside of like Spider-Man. And even then, you don't say like, wow, he's so strong, he's like Spider-Man. You go, look at that Superman. He's part of our culture and everything. So like if they can get him right, if they can really remind us and go back to the show and the comics and really go, hey, Superman's great not because he's Superman, because he cares. He loves people. He saves people. He's not going to be crashing through buildings. He's gonna take 10 hits to the face before he ever endangers a civilian. And even then, he still wouldn't do it. You know, like that's what I want to see. And if we have to rewrite things a little bit and maybe be like fake woke a little bit to get a damn good Superman story, I'd say I'm all for it. I look, if you like Man of Steel, that's great. I want to see the Superman that saves people, that sees a little girl about to jump off a building and goes, I'm here to talk to you. Well, you could save me if I jump. Yeah. But if your wish is to jump, I'm not going to save you. I'm just here to talk. That's the Superman I want to see. And I think JJ could give us that. Maybe it won't be the best, but I still think he'll give us that better than Snyder.
Now, let me ask the actual minority on the panel this time. Steve, you're the only white guy on the panel. Now, and I know race has never meant anything to you, and you're not a huge comic book fan, but what about you when you see this and there's no hate or anything, like this is because it would be fair for you to ask us how our feelings would be if they change a character of ours. How do you feel like when you see something like that, especially someone as iconic as Superman or Captain America?
Iconic.
Yeah. Not to draw lines in the sand, but I think when you're, I kind of feel the same as you. Like when you're changing an already an established character, I don't like that. Mm-hmm. I think we could create new characters. Now, if you're talking this alternate universe stuff, then fine, or if it whatever. I don't know the movie, but I believe wasn't there a black person that played a Norse god?
Well, Heimdall.
Heimdall did it.
Idris Elba played Heimdall, who's in charge of the Bifrost in Norse mythology or in the comic books.
Now, I don't know the origin story there, so I don't know if that was.
He was white originally.
Yeah, he was definitely white originally, and Matt can talk about this more. But I read a lot of mythology stuff too, and recently I listened to Stephen Fry's Norse mythology book. And there were black Vikings as well, but there were not any notoriety, like anyone that were really notorious, like any notorious black.
There was definitely no gods. There was black Vikings. That's like standard. That is a thing. That's 100%. We can prove that as fact. There was Africans who came and joined the Vikings and Berserkers and stuff. Not a lot of them, but they were there. There was Black Knights, the original Black Knight that they all referred to in English Arthurian lore. He's a black man. They called him the Black Knight because he was a black man. Yeah. So it's like they definitely existed, but they never got to the stage of ever being like glorified by the masses. So, for me, it's like it doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, as Taika Waititi said, look, they're space Vikings. What do you care?
Exactly. So that's another thing too. When it comes to the Thor stuff, I'm like, it's based on the comic book. It's not based on Norse mythology. The comic book is slightly based on Norse mythology.
Yes.
But I mean,
not really.
Loki was the father of Hela or Hel.
Yeah. And they changed that. Loki has a romantic relationship with a horse in mythology. It's all irrelevant. It's like, for me, it's like, and I think that's to me is like, look, if it doesn't make any sense, whatever. But at the same time, get the best actor for the job. And I think that's what they should have done, even if it was their intention. Lie to us. Say, look, we don't care about the race. We're looking for all actors of every creed.
Yeah.
And that's what I think they should have done, whether it was the truth or not, whether they're like, look, we're casting a black guy. Keep that to yourselves. We don't need to hear it because it's going to come off like we'll figure it out probably.
It'll sow dissension. It's so because then at the same time you're like, why couldn't it be a white guy? There's plenty of good white actors. There's plenty of good characters that you can do. And like you said, there's other black Supermen. So I think, and the fact is, at the end of the day, it is a room of producers and writers who are white guys who are like, we need a black character. Why do you care? Like, I appreciate you, but maybe have a brother in the room. Like, have someone in the room who's like, going to be like, hey, like they did for the Pixar Soul. They made the movie, and before they were halfway done with it, they said, hey, let's get a black director and a writer to come in and go, hey, are we being racist? Are we being bad? And he's like, well, some of this, let's fix this. So I think that should be the plan. Some of it wasn't even being racist. It was just being stereotypical and people just assuming that's the way lifestyles work.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
So-
it's like I think the biggest thing was the guy came in and he had a little afro, and he's like he wouldn't. Little afros aren't a thing. Like that's not like people don't do that. He'd go to the barber shop. He'd have his he'd get clean cut before a thing, and they're like, who cares about barber shops? And they're like, nah, it's the black experience. Like you don't understand. And so
Yeah.
it's like, and that's
More
something
than
that
haircuts.
exactly. It's like tamales for Latinos on Christmas. That's just a thing like we have to do. It's just so there's certain things that like, and if they're like, oh, he's gonna be black, but being black is irrelevant. Because if they go to the movie and they tell a story and he's just a black guy and he could have been a white guy, then it's like, why make him a black guy? If you're gonna tell a story with him being black, then that should be part of the story now, and therefore you should have a black writer.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. I want to say a big shout out to Matthew Torres, the story time guy on TikTok. Folks, if you're looking for, some in-depth stories about mythology, fairy tales, if you're looking for the real story in the story, make sure you give this guy a follow.
I'm gonna use that.
This was great. Thanks so much. We've
Thanks for having me.
never ever done a 3-hour long show. I'm sure Steve's
apologize,
wife
I talk
is
a lot.
loving us right now. Not his wife. But
My phone's about to die too.
but I do want to say thanks. Anyone, if you want to, please go follow him on TikTok. Like I said, the Storytime guy. That is Matthew Torres. For Matthew, for the Welland Wingnut, and for, of course, DocNet.ca, I'm your boy Zeus. This has been another edition of the RatG TV show here from the Rat Hole. Peace.